All right, here we go. The episode 17 of I Will Never Forgive You podcast. I think I've run the course as far as the long title versus I Will Never Give You a Rancid Sorry Bitch Ass. We can stick with the basics, the classics, right? Promotion. Things are dark and grim on the Patreon. Just have not had time. I'm going to do some special videos over there. God is my witness. Anime gods who will take vengeance upon me if I don't have a special video on there by the end of this month. I owe two. I'm sure as hell not rolling that over to 0-3 in December. That is not happening. I'm doing this, but it's only the 12th, so I have time. So I'm not going to promote too heavy because there's nothing new under the sun over there. There is a new podcast. There's the extra bonus podcast, which I almost used this week. If this hadn't been like food specific this episode, food specific next episode, if I wasn't locked into those two things, I would have used it this week. It's been a rough week. But hey, it is what it is. I just didn't want to waste one of these food opportunities because look at me, man. I like talking about food. Which is our main subject today. Why is anime so obsessed with food? I had two choices. The other choice was because, the vote tied, right? The other choice was being hungry is not a goddamn character trait in other hot takes. And I'm already going to have a lengthy hot take for this episode, so, having a bunch more hot takes just felt a little redundant. So that's the only reason I didn't do the other one. But we can do this. But before we do this, I don't know at this moment, because I'm going to figure it out in editing, if the feedback went longer than 90 minutes, I'm going to make its own video. If it's less than 90 minutes, I'm going to just add it here, right after I finish talking here. At this point, I don't know. So you're either going to see me talk about Demon Slayer next, or you're going to see me talk about answering a bunch of questions for less than 90 minutes. And then I'll talk about Demon Slayer, and then I'll come back. So one of those two things are going to happen. Either we go straight to Demon Slayer, or we spend the next really long time me answering questions and making comments and going off on tangents. Then we'll talk about Demon Slayer. One of those two things are going to happen, and then we'll come back. So the first question or comment is from Hunter Stone. Did your dad at least get to watch Infinity War? The better of the two movies. Yep, I actually agree with that sentiment. He did. I think the last movie he saw in theaters was Captain Marvel. I don't remember when Infinity War came out. It may have been like May. They brought it back a week. I know and it went into the previous month. So whatever month it came out, it was supposed to come out the next month or like a week later, and they pushed it back a week for some reason. I don't remember why. But I think Captain Marvel, and then he couldn't, and then within the time period, because I think Captain Marvel must have been like April, something like that. Somewhere around April is when he started getting really sick. So we saw Captain Marvel, and then within the time period, it was only about a month until Endgame came out. But in the time between Captain Marvel and Endgame, or was Captain Marvel first and then Ant-Man? It may have been Ant-Man. Whichever movie came out like a month or two before Endgame was the last one we saw. I think it could have been Ant-Man now that I think about it. I don't remember the release order. It doesn't matter. But that was the last one, and then he just wasn't quite healthy enough to watch, to go to the theater to see Endgame. So if I was to look up when Endgame premiered, that would be the time he just was too sick and he got into nursing home, and then by August of 2018 he was gone. So it was pretty quick once it happened. But yeah, it's just it's interesting. I just heard another story recently where some girl was dying and she wrote into J.K. Rowling, who was an absolute trash human being. But before we knew all that, this girl wrote in and people have layers no matter how trash you are. Like, I assume she still gave a shit about some sick little girl that was going to die. She seemed to have some empathy for certain types of people, right? So nobody's completely 100% evil. It's just how that goes. But the girl asked what was going to happen to her favorite characters. I think she asked about 2 or 3 characters. Or she may have asked about all the characters. How they end up. Where they end up. Are they living, dead? What kind of jobs they're going to have? Who ends up with who romantically? This kind of thing. And the girl was like 11 or something. And there was like a couple books left to go at this time. And so she wrote in. And then JK got this letter, answered her in detail, put this shit in print, by the way, which I wouldn't do. I would call her on the phone, maybe. Put the shit in print and was about to send it or something and heard from the family that the girl was dead. Like, she died before she could get the answer. So instead, JK named some random character after this kid that appeared in the sixth or seventh book, one of those two. Um, so you hear about this all the time. There was this dude who got to see an early cut of Phantom Menace because he was going to die. They did a movie about that. But it's always interesting, because time marches on. And we only have but so much time. And there's these things that come out, and, it's kind of interesting to think about this. How rarely it is that you're super hyped up for years for something, and then when that thing arrives, it actually meets your expectations. Sometimes it does. Like, I remember the end of season 4 of Supernatural, I was super excited. And in that same week, I'd also watched the end of season 5 of Lost, and I was super excited. And then it was a long 3 months to wait for both of those shows to come back. They had very similar finales. One of them fades to white. No, I think they both fade to white. Yeah, usually Lost fades to black. But they both fade to white, and they both had very similar finales when it came to that. Something big happens. Something we can't predict. We don't know what's going to happen next. And they both fade to white, and it happened within 3 days of each other. And the parallels are blowing my mind. And they had an actor in common, as we find out later, after the summer break. But it's like a long 4 months, right? To wait to the season premieres of 5 and 6 for Supernatural Lost. And both of them really, they stuck the landing. Like, they paid off the wait, right? By the third Star Wars prequel movie, we had low expectations. To me, I think they did pretty well. It was a pretty decent movie. It's the only one of the 3 that I enjoyed when they were first coming out. But then you get other things like the Dexter season 8 finale was trash. Most of the season was trash. People were waiting for years for the How I Met Your Mother finale, and it just shit the bed by all accounts. I don't really know for sure. I remember I forget what the name of the movie was. It may have been called Fanboys or something like that, but it was a comedy about a guy who was going to die, and he really wanted to see the Phantom Menace before he died, because by the time it released in theaters, he was going to be gone. And I remember it had Veronica Mars, the actress, in there playing dressed like Carrie Fisher. That's one of the things I remember about it. It was a good movie, but anyway, it's like they're sitting there, and he got to see the movie by himself, and he came out. He didn't tell them anything about it, right? And then he dies, and everybody else, all of his friends, are sitting there in the front row, Phantom Menace, and they're all excited to see it. They finally, they're sad their friend's dead, but they're kind of like carrying the flag for him, and they went through their own things, and so you're kind of glad to see they finally get to watch the movie. And then right before the movie starts, one of them turns to the rest and says, "Hey guys, what if it sucks?" Just a perfect ending to that movie. And you spend all this time waiting. We're spending all this time waiting. And I know I sound morbid, but I'm just old, man, and I don't feel well, and I've been, feeling progressively worse over the last couple months. It's starting to inhibit my work. You may have noticed my production is slowing down. It's just low energy, and when I wake up, I feel so bad for the first couple hours of waking up. I can't do anything. Like, I'm starting to dread sleeping, because I could feel fine at night, and I go to sleep, and I wake up, and I just feel like trash. It takes so long to get started. So this could just be normal old age. I could have something wrong with me. I haven't seen a doctor in 20 years, so who the hell knows? I could have something seriously wrong. I don't know. So I'm feeling in a morbid frame of mind, right? So I'm feeling like I probably don't have much time left. But I never thought I was going to make it to 30. I was convinced in my 20s I would die before my 30. So this is nothing new. This thinking that I'm going to die shit. It's been with me my whole life. Probably as a result of childhood, you get really cynical. So we won't delve down the psychological. But I have this ever-present feeling, especially lately, with just how bad I feel all the time, right? So it really feels like, and with as effing long as One Piece is taking, it does feel like I'm not going to see the end of it. So, and I wonder, if I did, if I was to say I was making a deal with the devil shows up. All right, man, I'll give you until the end of One Piece. The last episode of One Piece airs. You have 24 hours to watch it somehow, and then I'm coming to get you. You have that long, however long it takes. Then, of course, I'm going to be doing things like, sending him Ebola or something so that he takes longer to finish, so I can live longer. Hey, Devil said didn't say I couldn't cheat, right? And what if he dies before he finishes? I'd make sure that the contract I have with the Devil is that he has to be the one to finish it. You can't just have some other random Brandon Sanderson come in here and finish the shit. It has to be him. So, anyway, he's taking so effing long that there's a chance, right? So, but like, if we get there, like, is it possible for it to stick to land? Is it possible for us to be satisfied? I was satisfied at the end of Harry Potter. I wasn't thrilled. It could have been better. I didn't like some of the choices made, and yes, the last chapter was trash. But I was satisfied. I was satisfied at the end of Supernatural. It was pretty bad, but it could have been way worse, if that makes any sense. Like, having watched something for 15 years, and also the fact that Dad had watched all of it, but this last season with me, maybe I'm more forgiving to it. I don't know. I was satisfied at the end of Stargate SG-1. 10 seasons. A long time. We're talking about things that have a long time commitment. If you've watched or ingested something for a long period of time, then the ending means the ending has to be better than if it just happened over the course of 2 or 3 years. The Hunger Games, I think all 3 books came out within a 5-year span or something. So that's just not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about when you have a long time commitment, like you started when you were in high school and now you have a job. You've already finished college and you're in a job. There has been epic changes in your life. There's people talking about like they were in grade school when they started the Song of Ice and Fire. Now, it's never going to finish, but they were in grade school, and now they have kids that are in grade school. Because that shit first started coming out in 1998, man. It's been 27 years. They now have kids that are in grade school. It's been that damn long. So the longer you spend with something, the more amount of time that, the longer you spend with a story, the better it has to be. The Dark Tower started in the 80s, right? Maybe the 70s. I can't remember. Didn't finish till 98. Speaking of 98, it's interesting that Dark Tower finished the same year Song of Ice and Fire started. It's like a muse left Stephen King and went over to George R. R. Martin. Coincidence? Yeah, I mean, that's what the word means, but it's an interesting coincidence, isn't it? I just realized that. Interesting. Okay, so anyway, I just think that there's such a chance for disappointment. Now, I didn't think Endgame was a great movie, but it was a great finish to the 25 movies we'd had. It was a great end to that story arc. And the whole thing, that part of the MCU, to me, it's not perfect, but it's great. It's S tier. It's not perfect. They were finding their way. They had a lot of problems. But it was really good, man. And they stuck the landing. I don't know if they're going to stick the landing with this new phase, or even what is the landing. Like, they had such a problem with the Jonathan Majors and shit, so they had to pivot in the middle of it. So that's, wild. But that kind of thing happens when you take this long to tell a story. So there's a good chance of massive disappointment. So say you're clawing on, say you do radical medical treatments and shit, and you just so you can live long enough to see the end of something, and then it sucks. Well, that takes the air out of your sails, doesn't it? But, the bottom line, really, though, to me, what I've discovered, I think the journey is better. And we hear this all the time. The journey's better than the destination. What's a good example of that? Game of Thrones, really. The journey of Game of Thrones is fun. I just don't watch season 8 after the long night. I don't watch the last 3 episodes. I love watching reactions to Game of Thrones. I just stopped watching the reactions. Episode 3 of season 8. That's it. I'm done. I'll wait until they start doing House of Dragon. So, that journey, that's a good example where the ending is absolutely terrible. Now, I'd never watch the series on my own anymore, but I enjoy the reactions. Whereas, for instance, I don't watch reactions to Heroes, because that's just trash. And I don't watch. Well, I do watch reactions to Battlestar Galactica, but I kind of stop halfway through season 4. I don't watch the last 10 or so. So yeah, that's another one where the journey's worth it, better than the destination. Again, not Battlestar Galactica, another show I'd never rewatch on my own. But what would I rewatch on my own that has a trash ending? Well, Dexter. The Dexter series, I definitely would. Pretty much skipping season 8 for the most part. I think there's a couple good episodes in there. Even season 7 is kind of rough. Then I'd never watch New Blood again. But so I'm just saying, man. It's just there's got to be. I can't think of them, but there's got to be examples of 24. I guess is another example. It gets kind of rough in spots. There's certain seasons I'll skip, but they're basically each season is standalone. It's not like a building narrative in 24 for the most part. That's one where the journey is definitely better than the destination. But that's more of a journey show. It's not even a destination show. That show literally is about the journey. It's in real time. So, that's maybe the only story I can think of that really is about the journey. Maybe Journey to the West. It's right there in the title. Maybe Gulliver's Travels. Probably Wizard of Oz. Wizard of Oz. But again, we're not, for me, what matters is if it is a story that requires a massive time commitment before you get to the ending. Wizard of Oz, the ending kind of blows. But it's not a massive time commitment. You can read that in one day, probably 2 at the most, right? Watch the movie in a couple hours. So, I don't know. I just think that, what if it sucks is a hilarious idea. But to me, I've come to the opinion that, really the journey is what matters. And it's such a cliche, but it is true. Sometimes cliches are cliches because they're true. It's that simple, right? So, that's how I see it. One question that was one sentence, and we're 14 minutes in. This is going to be a long one. Ariel, I know I gave you more context in my comment on Patreon in episode 8 of A Pocket Theory, but I will add that while I don't think he deserved death, I can understand the characters at the brothel who were attached to the dead courtesan being motivated to want that. Yeah, I mean, that's true. But again, we only see things the way we see them, right? From our point of view. Somebody hurts us. We want that. But do any of these courtesans or any of their loved ones think about what they're doing to the guys they take all this money from? No, they just see them as marks and they laugh and they think it's funny for the most part. They don't think about that guy's feelings. And there's some gender politics there because men all have all the power, so it's nice to see a man get some comeuppance. I see that. There's that. They call that intersectionality, right? There's an intersection of things. It's not just one thing. We have power dynamics. And in this case, she has the power over him. So she sees him as less than. But then you have the gender politics that intersects all that. Where men mostly have the power over women. And this is one time you can get some get back. And it feels kind of good. And maybe that guy has exercised power over women many times. And he may even see he's the top of this relationship because he's paying her. But she has to be with him because he's paying her. So they can both see it different ways. And there's the power dynamics and gender politics and all this shit. It's a very interesting conversation. It's a complex. Like I said, it's an intersection. It's a nexus of all this shit. So that's all interesting. All I know is that the courtesan, I don't think any of them see that as, wow, we really hurt this guy's feelings. He might even be suicidal. That is probably a bad thing to do. I don't think they see that. I really don't. And so for them then to not see that, but turn around and see that with their loved one because it's their, nobody knows it, nobody cares until it happens to them, right? It's that kind of thing. So it's very normal, and it makes every bit of sense in the world. We're going to feel what's closest to home before we're going to feel something further away from home. It's that simple, right? I think one big theme of this show is relative powerlessness of women in a society compared to men. Boy, that is truth, kind of what I'm saying. Especially in this society. This will be a different conversation in our current society today, right? That society, there's another intersection, by the way. Okay, so there's all these intersections. Okay, you have the intersection of the power dynamic between courtesan and client. Then you have the intersection of gender politics. There's another intersection. Poor versus rich. Poor people, no power. whatsoever. Some of these courtesans probably come from poor families. They still feel that, even though they're now they're a higher caste system now. You know, and these men, to be able to afford them, to be able to blow the money in the first place, didn't grow up in a poor society, so they're rich. So that's a different dynamic. That's another intersection. We've already got three. Then there's the intersection of nobility, social status versus lack of social status and lack of nobility. That's a fourth intersection. And so chances are good the courtesan grew up in a poor family that had no status, and she's a woman. So she has three reasons not to like this rich, noble man, right? There's three reasons not to have any empathy for him. Because F his feelings, because he's a rich, noble man. There's already three reasons. So that is interesting. You know, and there's a lot going on there, right? That's and a lot of that doesn't even apply in today's world. We don't really have this social status thing. It's so, I mean, you just put a suit on and nobody knows you're poor. Back then, they always knew you were poor. Just your name would tell them, right? And then there's no like royal status here in this country. So a lot of this we can't even like really conceptualize. Though things can and do suck for a lot of men as well. Also, I do think that in the world/society of the anime, eunuchs have had all the hardware removed. Thank you for clarifying. I think historically it could vary depending on the culture, society, point in history. That it could just be the balls, everything, or possibly just a chemical castration. Yeah, and I think the chemical castration can even be reversed. I'm not sure about that. They offer that now sometimes with some of these prison sentences with these sexual deviants. They can offer, they can voluntarily take a chemical castration and get less time, you know. So, but that seems to imply it's a permanent situation. I don't really know, but it's possible the chemicals should just go in there and burn everything out. I don't know, but it feels like it would just be like you're chemically cutting a network. I don't know. It's interesting. I would be surprised if they had that back then. But hey, you know, they were medically advanced. You know, the Chinese were way medically advanced compared to the Europeans at the time, you know. That's one reason a doctor in the rear palace isn't the most competent, because only men can be doctors and only eunuchs can serve in the rear palace. So they essentially have to either force a doctor to be castrated or take whatever doctor is willing to be a eunuch. I'm sure there are other more competent doctors serving at the palace, just not the inner court with the concubines. That's very interesting. Here's a question. Say you have a sick concubine, and you know the eunuch doctor is incompetent. Can you take the sick courtesan from the rear palace into a common area where she can be looked at by a more competent, you know, palace doctor? It doesn't seem like that. It doesn't. I'm not sure that, you know, the courtesans are allowed out of the rear palace, or if they are, it's under heavy entourage. But then you can have a heavy entourage there when the doctor's with her. You just want to make sure nobody else is nailing your courtesans. That's the purpose of the eunuchs in the first place. You want no cross-pollination. But I don't know. But that's you would think that'd be possible. Like, if you care about the eunuchs, you can make anything possible as an emperor, right? You can even grant the doctor temporary passage as long as he has like 6 guards staring at it the entire time, right? You got to be able to trust the guards. But yeah, there you are. But yeah, that makes much more sense that this doctor is so incompetent because, and you know, he's just inferior. It's because he's a eunuch, you know. So that's interesting. Yeah, and I've already seen the next 7 episodes of Popular Diaries as I record this, and I'd already read this comic, so I'd taken the knowledge that he is just an incompetent, inferior doctor because he's a eunuch into those viewings, and it made a hell of a lot more sense. It really did. All right, and then Ariel replies to herself. Also, it sounds like you thought the premise of the double suicide would be too coincidental. But our girl, whose name I can't pronounce, explained it as she was assessing the situation. Usually a double suicide would happen when a courtesan and a customer fell for each other. Probably rare, yes, but they were human. But the courtesan still had a lot of time left on her term, and the man doesn't have enough money to buy her out. In the case of episode 8, the man wasn't hurting for money, so it didn't seem the type to be a part of the double suicide with the courtesan. Right, so it has to be a very specific scenario. Like, his broke ass and her heart broke ass. They can't be together all the time, and she doesn't want to be, oh, you know what? I think I was using the word courtesan and concubine interchangeably. When I was talking about the emperor and having somebody look and having him come out of the rear palace, I meant concubine. Yeah, you can see my confusion. These aren't really concepts we play with on a daily basis. That's what I was talking about before. So I meant concubine. The courtesans are the regular prostitutes. The concubines are the royal prostitutes, essentially, is what we're talking about here. But anyway, you have to have a specific use case where he's a broke ass. If he's broke, and you may not know what she's doing because maybe she hasn't said anything to anybody, but you can assume if he's broke and you look at his financial situation, and then she did it with him, that they probably did fall into. And it must have happened at least once, so you're going to think of that. But he didn't fit the profile. So that's what made her doubt that, which makes sense. Hunterstone. I just went to go see the new Chainsaw Man movie. It was pretty good. I gave it 4 stars on Letterboxd, which is, they only go up to 5 stars, so that's pretty good. Good story, but kind of predictable. The side characters were the highlight of the film for me. It didn't feel like an arc that needed to be made into a movie, though. So, probably not big picture enough. The scope just wasn't big enough. We feel if we're going to see it on a big screen, we're going to pay theater prices. The scope has, the world has to be in danger. The universe has to be in danger or something, right? Or character in major danger. Or we see the demon come out for the first time for real. If the stakes aren't that big, then what are we doing here? It's just an ordinary ass story, right? So, like I think about the Gintama movie, that was pretty big damn stakes. The stakes were pretty big. So, and and they had a lot of fighting that, would look better on a big screen, so that makes sense. So yeah, that makes sense. I'm on board with that. Interesting you say it's kind of predictable, though. I mean, I guess I'd have to see it to know what you mean. But predictable isn't bad. Predictable can be good. I've kind of been thinking about this. Sometimes, we talk about, like, I tried to rewatch some Ellie Moses Lost reactions, and he's almost unwatchable in season 3 because he just predicts everything, to the point he kept having people in the comments accusing him of having watched ahead. Which, again, I don't know any reactor would do that because it's double the work. For a 1 hour episode, you watch it twice, so that's 2 hours. Then you have to edit it, so that's another 2 hours. Then you're exporting it. I mean, it's just, why would you double your workload? It doesn't make any sense. Why? So you can get some internet clout points. Hey, I correctly predicted something. I'm awesome. No. And you would know that because, like I'm talking about here, the reactor being able to predict everything is a boring reaction. It's tedious. In fact, it's annoying, especially when it's a really good twist and they see it ahead of time. Then it's annoying. So no reactor is going to watch ahead on something so they can then annoy the audience. Why would you do that? I'd rather be wrong. I want to be wrong in my predictions so that I look like an idiot, which is funny, and I'm surprised, which is exciting for me and everybody else. That's the best of both worlds. If I predict something and I'm wrong, I'm happier than anybody. Believe that. If I correctly predict something, the only thing I can do with that is tell you the story architecture I noticed that created that prediction. Kind of interesting a couple times, but then you get it, right? So there's not much you can get out of that. And yeah, so it's almost unwatchable. But the thing is, about Lost specifically, the writers did such a good job of foreshadowing things that you can see it coming. Breaking Bad's another one. Vince Gilligan. Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, and now with Plurbius. He does such a good job of foreshadowing shit that if you're paying close attention, which we can now with streaming and be able to back up things, and it's not just watching it live once, right? Especially with then you're sitting through commercial breaks. You're running back in from the kitchen when it comes back on. So now you can really do a close reading of the episodes, and when you do that, you can see what's coming. You can predict a lot of things because he does such a good job of setting things up. This is in episode 1. This is going to be important later. You pick up on that, and when you get to a situation where that can apply, there's your prediction, and you're going to be right. Because it's well-told stories. You can predict really shitty stories, and you can predict really well-written stories. The stories you can't predict are the ones that are in the middle. They're not very good, but also they're not so bad that they're predictable. They're just unpredictable. You don't know what the hell they're going to do. But so it's the ones in the middle, ironically, that are impossible to predict. Give me an A or give me an F, those are predictable. The C, hard to predict. There's two kinds of predictable. Sometimes being able to predict a plot twist actually is good. For instance, I'll give an example. In Lost, there's a certain case where one character had unknowingly screwed over another character. And they'd both been in a story, you didn't realize there was a connection between them. And then there comes an episode where they meet each other and they realize the connection between each other and one of them kills the other. And it's a really cathartic moment. It's really exciting. You never thought it was going to happen, or if it did, it was going to happen at the end of the series. And you didn't realize these two characters had a connection. If you predict this, then you're just waiting for that conversation. You're waiting for a body to hit the floor at that point. And you're really excited to see this because of the implications, because of who the two characters are. Being able to predict it in time means you have an exciting 25 minutes instead of an exciting 3 minutes. Because if you don't predict it, if you wait for the reveal, you only have 3 minutes and then one of them is dead. So that's not enough time to anticipate it. Being able to predict it 25 minutes ahead is very exciting. So in reactions, I actually love it when they predict this. Because then me and the reactor can both be excited for the next 20 minutes waiting for this confrontation. So that, so you're excited, you get 20 minutes of fun instead of 3 minutes of fun. That's a case where being able to predict something is a good thing. And Ellie had predicted that, and it was very exciting. It's some of the other twists, the ones that the excitement is the twist itself, the excitement is not the anticipation of the twist. See, the anticipation of the twist is two characters are going to talk, two characters are going to fight, something is going to break out between these two people. So that is exciting, and you anticipate that, and you can't wait to see it. But other twists, like, Luke, I'm your father, or no, I'm your father, whatever the line was. That kind of shit, I guess you can anticipate how Luke would take it if you predict that. But really, the joy is the shock of the moment, and not seeing it's coming from nowhere. You have no idea that's coming. Boom, here it is, hitting you in the nuts. Those are the kind of predictions I think is better if you don't predict them ahead of time. So here, is it predictable in such a way that you can then anticipate what's going to happen? Ooh, man, wait a minute. Maiko, or whatever hell, or Miko, whatever her name is actually Oh Boy's mother. She already knows this, and he won't give a shit when he finds out, so the only joy you're going to have is the actual shock of the moment of the reveal. You're not going to joyfully anticipate their next encounter because neither one of them cares. She's a psychopath and he's an asshole. So, I don't know. I doubt that that's the situation. I'm just saying that's a predictable outcome that would not be exciting to predict. But other things like, if there's some kind of a way where it's like, wait a minute, this person now we know this person has a reason to kill this other person. That's the kind of thing that you would want to predict and anticipate. So what I'm saying, this is a long way of saying this, is this predictability, is it a good thing or a bad thing? Because it can be one or the other. Some things are fun to predict, and some things you'd rather not be able to predict it. So from your reaction, it sounds like it's the kind of thing that's just, makes the movie experience more boring. Because you see everything coming, and you never get the shock of the moment. Oh, I will say, if I'm not reacting, if I'm just watching something on my own, which I rarely do these days, being able to predict something, I get really excited if I'm just by myself, because I'm not ruining it for anybody else. There's nobody anticipating when I'm going to react. It's just me, right? I'm like, oh my God, wait a minute. Did I just figure this out? See, that's actually, I never really thought about this until just now. I get really excited when I figure something out by myself, when I'm with myself and I can't prove it to anybody. Because I know, I only care what I think. I don't care. I don't give a shit if people think I'm lying about whatever, I don't care. But to me, if I know that I've figured it out myself, I didn't cheat, I'm really excited. I do a little Snoopy dance, right? Oh my God, I figured that shit out. I don't like doing it in reactions because it's not just me. I'm ruining it for other people too, if they were anticipating that. I'm still going to say what I think. I'm not going to be like, well, this is, I think I figured it out, but I won't say it. No, I'm not an actor. You would see it. When it comes, I would never have the appropriate reaction for whatever it's supposed to be because I'm not an actor. So I'm going to say the shit. But I just realized that. I never really thought about it. I'm actually excited when I'm by myself and predict something, but not excited when I correctly predict something, unless, like I said, that prediction creates a situation where we can both anticipate something for 20 minutes. Oh my God, I can't wait till he finds out that he's shitting his drink. He finds that out, he's going to shove that entire toilet down that dude's throat. I can't wait. You know, that's the kind of shit that I like. This is Hunter. Why didn't you choose my recommendation for horror anime miniseries? Was it just because you wanted a good series? I don't know what the hell you're talking about. This is the first time I've ever heard about this in my life. I have no idea. Um, Most likely, it was time. I may have compared how long the miniseries was versus how long the movies were. It may have been hard to find. Some of these things just aren't on certain sites. I have no idea. This does make me want to go back and look at what this recommendation was. I've written down some things people have recommended, but then later I won't remember who did it. I better credit the better alter my notes to credit things. So yeah, I have no idea, but it wasn't. It wasn't because F Hunter Stone. um, I know I did a poll and Paprika won. I'm glad I watched Paprika, although it really wasn't horror. There was a little bit of body horror there. There was a little bit of creepiness. I wouldn't call it a horror movie, and it was on a list of horror movies. And I pulled to make the poll. I pulled from the horror movie list, right? And I think I may have pulled from a couple people's recommendations. But I don't know, man. Nothing personal for sure. Also, Understone. The other day, I just finished A Summer Haruka Died. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't anything crazy good. It is not a full horror anime, by the way. It seems like there are no actual full horror animes. There is no smile of anime, which is just sucks. I think anime could really do well in horror, but maybe it's a cultural thing. Maybe this shit is terrifying to Japanese people, that culture, and just not terrifying to whatever our nationalities are. I'm not sure, Hunterstone. Probably American, but could be Canadian. British. I don't know. Seems English as first language ish, but I'm not sure. Um, but it's just possible that, to Japanese people, this shit is terrifying. So, there is that. It's more of a coming of age slice of life mystery series, which sounds really good, by the way. I like that shit. First episode hooks you a lot, but doesn't keep the same pacing for the rest of the series. That is definitely something I want to check out, for sure. Next question is from Power Death. I've been making fun of the Giants. They gave away Saquon Barkley and he won the Super Bowl. And now they gave away Daniel Jones and he's out there balling. Considering this is an anime podcast, I thought you were talking about you were making fun of the One Piece Giants. And I was like, well, they are pretty dumb. They're basically the dumbest race we got. Big does mean stupid. So I'm with you about making fun of them. But they seem like decent guys. I don't think we should make fun of them too much. They seem like they're really good dudes, man. A good person to me is more important than a smart person. I'd rather be dumb and good than smart and evil. So that's how I feel about that. But no, you're right. The Giants are morons. The New York football Giants are morons. And they still don't like the fact that Daniel Jones for the Colts is playing well. So eat shit and die. That's how I feel about that. This one's from Ariel. Also, as far as F-bomb predictions, I simply forgot to leave one. Oh, by the way, she's given me my mission. I'm going to be reacting to 2 episodes of Black Clover. I'm just trying to catch up like I'm late on the podcast. I'm going to catch up on everything and I'm going to do it. So that'll be dropped in a couple days. I'll just make it public. We can all check it out. If you like Black Clover, I'm going to watch the first 2 episodes. And somewhere down the road, I'll probably do more. We'll see how it goes. I'm kind of excited to check it out because it's one of those that's an intriguing name. Some names are just intriguing. Like Attack on Titan was intriguing. I thought it was a space opera. Titan is a moon around Jupiter. So I thought it was a space opera. They'd be flying around little spaceships and shit and fighting each other and they're attacking the moon of Titan or whatever, And then Samurai Champloo, I was like, well, who's getting shampooed? That's an intriguing name. Cowboy Beebop just sounded stupid, so I wasn't looking forward to watching that one. Turned out to be awesome. This one, Black Clover. It reminds me of Leather and Lace, and there's another song, something about a clover. Matter of fact, I think I've got it right here. Hold on. Yeah, it's by Korea to Japan. Unfortunately can't play it, but it's a song called Clover. So, I don't know. From the name, it sounds kind of interesting. I don't know if the black clover is a real flower or not. Probably not. it would probably be easier for me to pick something if I had stacked up a few, because then I could have you watch multiple episodes of the same show. So, we're doing 2 so far. See how that goes. Power of Death, where you at? Is it Power of Death? Wait, Power of Death, right? Like, you won twice in a row. Leave in a comment, but still ain't told me what you want me to watch. Get on that. I will watch anything but, porn. I'm not going to watch anime porn, but I'll watch anything else. This is Hunter Stone. One Punch Man was one of the earliest animes I watched. I still enjoyed it without the knowledge of anime. And then maybe it'll make you want to watch one of my favorite animes of all time by the same author, Mob Psycho 100. I should look that up. I keep meaning to do that. 37 episodes. Doesn't sound too intimidating. Yeah. Put that on my list. This really ever-growing list, right? Because I also want to see that day Hisoka died. And I want to watch some more of... what's that thing I did one episode of? The Dark History of the Reincarnated Villainess. Yeah. Basically evil Snow White. So, want to get some more of that. I'm just doing that just because it's coming out right now. So I'm going to try to strike while the iron's hot and get some of those sweet, sweet views of something new that's out. So, we'll see how that goes. Just me selling out, Of course, I've only had time to do one of them. I think 4 or 5 are out so far. Hunter Stone, I'd be down to watch Stranger Things from and it Welcome to Derry on your second channel. Now, here's the thing. I've now, since the last time we talked about this, Welcome to Derry has been fully funded. Mario has funded it. He's financed it. I will definitely be watching it. I still might try to do that as an edited reaction. I don't think he gives a shit. There'll be accompanying full reactions over on Patreon. So he has an option of either way. He can watch it as a full reaction, and then I think I'll do some... that'll probably be something I do as an edited reaction on the second channel. That'll be the next thing I do after Polybius. Yeah, okay, yeah. So we're doing that for sure. But I still definitely want to watch Stranger Things and From, so we'll see how that goes. Ariel, I think the reason I'm still watching General Hospital... Surprised you're still talking to me after the way I trashed soap operas. Look, man, we're not going to get into it again. It's because of being attached to some of the characters. Yeah, I mean, exactly. Why did I watch the shitty middle seasons of Supernatural? Because I was attached to the characters, and even though the finale was effing terrible, just awful, I still kind of wanted, I wasn't willing to let go of the characters. And neither was Dad. So we muddled through, right? Rather than the stories being all that great. I'd be interested in a supernatural soap opera. All the soap opera tropes, all the shitty production values, all the cheap-ass sets and one takes and mediocre actors, but in a supernatural environment. Like they have a haunted bed and breakfast or something. And every now and then somebody gets haunted by the ghost or murdered by the ghost or some shit. I'd watch the hell out of that. Throw a supernatural... I don't know why none of these soap operas do it. I guess they want to be as grounded and mediocre as possible, right? They don't want to accidentally entertain you, So they need to be as vanilla as possible. It really is... It's the white noise of TV, right? So I think that's why they don't go outside the box very often. Though there is an attempted murder mystery whodunit going on right now. But mostly I think I've kept watching from habit since around 20 years ago. That's a long-ass habit. The longest I've ever watched anything is probably Supernatural. Although the 7 years of Next Generation and then 7 years of Voyager, that was 14 years. Same general premise. I never watched that shitty space station one, Deep Space Nine. But I watched Next Generation and Voyager back to back. And then I watched Enterprise. I watched the first 2 seasons of Enterprise. So that's the longest franchise I've ever watched. Because that is 14 plus 2 is 16. That beats out... No, that ties the SG-1 franchise. So I did 16 straight years of Star Trek. I did 16 straight years of SG-1. No. We can't stack it up that way, though. Because I watched 10 years of Stargate SG-1, 5 years of Atlantis, but the last 2 seasons of Stargate SG-1 were happening concurrently with Atlantis. I was watching them at the same time, so really it was only 13 years. It wasn't 15 years. So it was only 13 years straight, And in 1 year, that shitty third series, Stargate Universe, and I bailed. I didn't watch anymore. So that was only 14 years. It was 16 seasons, but only 14 years. And then, like I said, 16 seasons and 16 years of Star Trek. So I have similar experiences, and the quality went up and down. So I know what you mean. You get into the habit of watching a franchise, so you're just gonna watch any crap they put out, unless Stargate Universe gets so bad you're like, f this, I'm out, which it did. Boy, that was terrible. Habit since about 20 years ago, with some breaks of months, years, like the comic books, you just jump right back in. It's easier now with streaming and not having to be home in front of a television when it airs. So I guess soap operas stream now. I guess so. I never really thought about it. Though the episodes do expire on Hulu after 2 weeks, so you couldn't completely catch up if you missed more than that. So yeah, the Hulu is not trying to host 5 million episodes of soap operas. So they're going to host 10 at a time, it sounds like. And then after that, you're on your own. That's all you get. Although you could probably find it on pirate site somewhere. I wonder if even pirates would. I should look into that. Matter of fact, let me do that right now. I'm curious. Interesting. My Yo Ho Ho and a Bottle of Rum website does not have General Hospital. I was gonna be like, would they have the 5,000 episodes? No. You can do Witchfinder General, The General, a movie, The General, a movie, General Education, General Commander, and The General. There are 3 movies called The General. You gotta be shitting me. One of them came out in 1926. Buster Keaton. 1926. The next one was 1998, and then the last one was 2019. All called The General. Jesus. Well, learn something new every day. But yeah, no General Hospital. So, yeah, not even the pirates are going to do anything with that. Like, they don't give a shit. I'm sure there's a special soap opera pirate site, but I'm not looking for it. I disagree with your animated horror take. There is one huge non-live action horror medium that terrifies people all the time. Horror video games. Yeah, but that's not really the same thing though. I mean, we're talking about passive entertainment versus active entertainment. It's 2 different categories, right? It's apples and oranges. Passive entertainment, you're just watching. I still maintain that animation just isn't immersive enough for you to be scared. But active entertainment, even though it's animation, like you have skin in the game, like you're controlling the character. You've emotionally bonded with the character in a way that you can't with passive entertainment. You're making decisions. It's on you. And you're the one, especially now the graphics have gotten so good. Now, maybe not, 30 years ago, 20 years ago. Now graphics are so good. And especially if you have a big screen TV and you got the whole sound system and everything, you're fully immersed. And it will scare the dog shit out of you. Five Nights at Freddy's, right? They will scare the piss out of you. So yeah, horror video games, absolutely. I just think it's apples and oranges. I know we're splitting hairs here. We're just having a conversation. But I just think it's a different thing because it's not passive. You could say that video games have a higher level of immersion. I agree 100%. But there are games such as Until Dawn that have a lower level of player interactivity, basically making it a movie. Now, see, that's interesting. I don't know. I can't speak to that. I don't know about that. I do wonder. I guess that's a popular game, Until Dawn. So you're saying there's so many cutscenes that essentially you're watching a movie, and then you make little actions in between the scenes. Yeah, I mean, look, there's room. Like if you're talking about something like that, that's like there's wiggle room here. Whatever category that is, I'm with you on that. That makes sense. I do think that. Like I said, with you are bonded with the character because you're making decisions. You're moving the character around, and even if it's not as much as other video games, it could be its own category thing. Because I don't really know what that means on a practical level. Like it's more like a movie that people have said that about Last of Us. They have extensive cutscenes, but it still seems like you're doing a fair amount of time moving your character around, right? Like I'd be interested, for instance, what's the total play time of Until Dawn versus what's the full length of cutscenes, which sometimes I think can number 5, 6, 7 hours, right? But playtime could be 55 hours. So I don't know, but yeah, I mean, I'm with you on that. Video games, yeah, for sure. But if we're talking about passive entertainment, like just watching shit, I think what I said, still makes sense. My main feeling, this is still Hunter. My main feeling about the ending of Yu Yu was I didn't care about the demon realm being democratic. Fair enough. I'm just going to say this again because I'm really glad the tournament at the end was forced on the author and wasn't his original intent. The whole thing was just a mess. I think whoever made the anime, and we don't really know who that was. Like, I don't think it was the author. Whoever was the shot caller, the showrunner of the anime, did the best they could. They did a decent job. I do think it's funny. He wakes up a week later. Hey, it's all over. I feel like you could have done a little bit better than that. That aside, you know, I think he did the best he could. I really do. So, kudos, I guess. I guess that's what we're saying. You know, but yeah, it was a mess. The whole thing was a hot, wet, sticky mess. It's just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But they did the best they could, and it's kind of reminds me of like the Game of Thrones ending. Like they wanted to go on and do the Star Wars trilogy, which they ended up not being able to do because they got their asses fired because they suck. But they were in a hurry and they just wanted to wrap it up, and that's one of the reasons everything sucked. Just one. There was also sheer incompetence, laziness, and just stupidity, but that was separate issues. One of the things was it was rushed. So, very rarely when something is rushed is it going to be good. Just only a few times has anybody ever been able to pull that off. Still, better than the Married with Children finale. The Married with Children finale was they had a regular episode because they thought they were getting another season. And then the screen went to black, and then there was some text came up said, "Oh, thank you for supporting us for 11 years. This is the end of the show," and they had like a clapping applause sound effect, and that was their finale because nobody was told they were canceled until after they'd shot everything. They thought it was just a regular finale. So that's the worst finale I've ever seen. That was terrible because it wasn't a finale. All right, next up is Barracuda. I never understood the hype around Orochimaru. The character felt like wasted potential. Yeah, here's the thing. Naruto is in that strange place where they didn't have story arcs. One Piece has like story arcs. There's a villain in a story arc, and then the villain goes away, and then there's a new villain in a new story arc. They had story arcs, but they didn't have villain-specific story arcs. Like, here's the beginning of the story arc, here's where we meet the villain, and then at the end of that story arc, we defeat the villain, and then we move on to a new villain, right? They didn't have that. They just kind of had, like, we're hanging out. Like, we're out here. Here's a story arc involving Orochimaru. Now, here's another story arc involving Orochimaru, and here's this and that, right? They're just kind of, like, hanging out, right? Naruto, this series kind of reminds me more of American television, the old 24 episode format, where it's like, doing different things, filler here, mythology episode here, this bad guy, now we're doing this over here, here's this bad guy, now we're going to bring this guy back. They didn't really have story arcs in 80s and 90s TV shows, the 24 episode format. They just kind of had people that would show up 4 or 5 times a year, and they were the problem. But they were only there maybe a 2-parter here. Maybe they'll start the season and there's 2-part in the middle, and maybe they end the season, but then they're just not around the rest of the time. There's other people, right? Like, that's kind of what Naruto reminds me of. And it's just, they couldn't make up their mind. Like, I think he should have been the big bad of the entire series. He was great. He had a bet. You're not going to do any better than him. I know they could, they had more powerful characters that could just stomp him out quickly, but that's because you wrote it that way. You could have him be that, right? So that's why I was so shocked when Orochimaru was killed in the Shippuden. It blew my mind. I thought he was going to be the series long big bad. It blew my mind, and I loved that episode. And I think it was great. I really admired that writing choice, but at the same time, I think it hurt the show. Then they pull 4 or 5 different villains out of their ass in the last 50 episodes. It was a mess. It was poorly planned. It was a mess. It didn't make sense. And I think with 2020 hindsight, Monday morning quarterback, and I think looking back, the author probably would have done it differently if he could do it again. I would hope. Because I think the author is really good. So any good person would look back, yeah, that could have been done better. He was scary, had interesting abilities, and was a man of action, but I just couldn't make sense of his story once we were told more of it. And especially couldn't understand the point of his revival, other than he was the one who could revive the Kajis for Sasuke to have conversations with them. and whatever happened afterwards. Yeah, it's just, I don't know that's another thing. I don't know that the plan originally was that he was just a regular ninja who got pissed off and left. We never really got the full story there. I feel like a full story arc should have been devoted just to his past. We got an adjacent one when we've got Pervy Sage. We got his story, and he was in the same team as Orochimaru, but that we only got bits and pieces. We only got part of it. So I don't know, man. Like I agree with you 100% is what I'm saying. He could have been better, and he was a shit ton of wasted potential, and he should have just been a big bad. Like, you already had your character. You had him. You didn't need all this other shit. The other people should have been minions or opposing. Like, you could have Pain, that whole group could stay and be opposing him. They could be another faction that's against him, but also against our guys. So you got some three-way action. We always know three-way is better than just two-way, right? So you got, like, the good guys, Orochimaru's faction, and the Kakashi faction, right? Like, that's what it should have been. And then we didn't need any of this other shit behind that, right? Toby could still be the leader of the Kakashi, and then, you could have a Toby Orochimaru showdown. And Toby could be the origin story, the same origin story that we had. And then you would have parallel. Both of these big bads were produced by the village that we've been following. We thought were the good guys the whole time. Both of them, for different reasons. And we can speak to the failure of that society to keep producing these kind of people, right? You could have had an awesome story there. There's so much thematically you could have done with that, and we create our own villains. You didn't need anything beyond that. He just made it too complicated for no reason. It just, it didn't make any sense. So they were, I bet if you was go back and you could just go back and rewrite the entire series with everything we know now, it would be much tighter, be much more awesome, and it'd make a whole lot more sense, And sometimes you don't get when you're doing an ongoing story and you're publishing pieces before you finish it, the whole story, that's what you're running into. So, I don't know. I think this is a really good point, and I agree 100%. Kill Code. I'm interested in how you would rank the Satoshi Kora's movies now that you've seen 3/4 of his films. Perfect Blue, Tokyo Godfathers, and Paprika. With Millennium Actress being the only one you haven't watched. Unfortunately, he passed in 2010 before he could finish his 5th film, Dreaming Machine. He also wrote and directed 13 episodes of a series in 2004 called Paranoia Agent that you might be into if you wanted a TV series from him. He's a personal favorite of mine. I'm going to make a note of that right now because that sounds awesome. I want to finish out his playlist since we got one more movie and one TV series. Let's do it, man. I want to do that, actually. Here's a Reddit thread. Paranoia Agent. What the F did I just watch? That sounds like it's right up my alley. Okay. Duly noted. I'll put that on my list along with everything else, right? I like Paprika the most. But, I don't know how good that opinion is, I guess, because here's the thing. With Paprika, just has the world building I like the most. The dream stuff. The Paprika character herself. What the hell is she? Like, the mystery of it all. And she's got the Mona Lisa smile, and the other characters were interesting, and the movie was a delight. Tokyo Godfathers was the realest movie we saw. It's the one that feels like it could most likely we could just run into it and it happens. The other two are more fantastical, more magical realism. Less sensical, maybe you might say. So, Tokyo Godfathers is probably my least favorite, and again, we're comparing them to each other. It's still a great movie. I really liked it. And then, Perfect Blue probably would be second. I guess Paprika would be first. But, I don't know how valuable that opinion is, to be honest with you. This is just... Paprika tickled my personal funny bone, what I personally like about stories. This is my kind of story. If you were just to build a story for me from the ground up, you would start here with this movie. I love Inception. I wish there would be spinoffs and sequels and whatever. A TV series, a remake, whatever, man, because I love the world building. I love being able to enter people's dreams. There's so much more you can do with that. We just wasted on 1 2-hour heist movie, man. There's all kinds of shit you can do with that. Therapy. You use it for therapy to fix people. Like I said, Falling Waters. did a lot more with the concept. It's basically Inception, the TV series. So at least we got that because I really enjoyed that series. But yeah, I want to finish out his playlist. So I guess nobody did anything with Dreaming Machine. You said he couldn't finish it, but that means he had started it, right? Like had he written a script? Had he done some production on it? Nobody ever finished it. Seriously, we're gonna look that up too. Looks like it did get finished. No, it says it's an unfinished film. Let me just look at this real quick. So he died. I guess it's Kon is his name. I don't know why I saw an I there. My old eyes. He died in 2010, so this is 15 years ago. If somebody was going to finish it, they would have finished it. Oh no, they did finish it, or didn't. I'm getting mixed messages here. Okay, in 2018, they said the movie would not be completed or released in the foreseeable future. There were no Japanese animation directors who could match his level of ability. You're telling me like nobody ever could match him? Like everybody's replaceable, man. Like I don't know. I don't think they wanted to. Like they had too much respect for him to do it. Like Kubrick was great, but like his last movie about the robot or whatever AI, somebody else did it. They finished it. Like nobody is so good that they can't be replaced. If we're talking about writing, I might could dig it, but like I assume it looks like the script was finished. They just couldn't match his animation. I just don't believe that. They didn't want to. They have too much respect for him. There's nobody willing. There's no good animating director willing to do that. Is what I'm getting out of this. I don't know, and I respect that. I respect that they don't want to do it, but don't lie to me. Don't tell me like you're telling me he literally like nobody can approach his level of animation. Nobody ever in the history of the world, or at least from this point forward. I don't know. I don't believe it, man. Because like the animation in his movies, other than Paprika, was the least interesting part of it. Like I love the story, I love the directing. Like the directing, I mean, just like the shot choices and what they used and what they focused on and the whole package. Like he's a great director. Don't get me wrong, but I wouldn't say that the animation was so over the top, mind blowing. I've seen like Jujutsu Kaisen's animation might be the best I've ever seen. Like they could do justice to this. Yeah, it's a different kind of genre. That's a storytelling we're talking about. No, I think this is just. I have too much respect for this person. For instance, if and this would never happen, so don't get it twisted. Like I'm not even implying in the slightest bit this would ever happen. But if Stephen King's family came to me after he died, hey, can you finish this story of his? Hell no. I have too much respect for the man. Like there's no way in hell I would touch that shit. But that's respect. Could I finish it? Yes, I could finish it. And again, writing is different because writing is inspiration. Writing is creativity. Writing is making these connections and matching the theme that he intended and all that shit. That shit is hard. To match the voice of another writer is hard. To animate something that's already written, especially when you have previous examples of the animation, I think any swinging dick can do that, man. Like maybe I'm wrong. I don't know much about animation, but for me, it would if it was, I guess okay. Here's an example. Say he was directing a film and he died, and they said, look, he finished half the film. Here's the script. It's finished. You don't have to worry about that. Can you just direct the rest of the movie? Not a great example because he's not. He only directed one movie, right? So I don't respect him as a director like I do as a writer. You get my point. You get what I'm saying. Like it's respect. That's all it is. And that's fine. It's fine to respect people. There should be more respect in the world. But it just, the lying is what annoys me. I don't know. And finally, from Kill Code. Oh no, shit. Power of Death. I don't. They have very similar avatars. The avatar is different, but the colors palette. The avatar is actually different, but the color palette of these two is very similar. You have the green, you have the white, and you have the brown. I don't know. I think I'm just it's not super the same, but the color scheme is the same. So anyway, this is Power Death. I'm a big NFL fan. Fan of Eagles. Oh, oh. Look, man. reigning Super Bowl champions, you're going to catch these jokes. And lately, I've been watching people react to NFL highlights. Yes, there are some reaction vids for NFL videos, just like people do a reaction video for anime and TV shows. Do you think you would be into that kind of stuff? I know you're a Colts fan and they've been on fire this year so far. Have you ever watched Tom Grossi? It's Tom Grossi. There may be two I's. I can't remember. He live streams 3 to 4 games on Sundays. He live streams Thursday night games. He live streams Monday night games. He's a Packers fan, so if you're into that, he will typically live stream a Packers game every week. Very funny. I haven't really watched live streams. I'm not really into that, but like I know he does it. And so for a reaction to live sports, you might want to check him out. If you've never checked him out, he's a very funny dude. His skits come out, he does skits between weekends of the games and stuff. And he's been having a lot of fun with the Colts this year. He's got the Indiana Jones hat. In the week that the 2 players got injured, he had the eye mask on and stuff like that. So I'm surprised he didn't have the bloody mouth this week. You should check that out. He's a good channel. As far as me, I mean, here's my thing. I want to do all kinds of shit, but I'm really struggling just to keep up with what I'm actually doing, right? And like I said, it's just like it's hard. I have some bad days, and I used to make fun of Dad for having bad days. Bad days? The hell are you talking about? Bad days? You wake up wrong and shit. He would say that shit. He'd wake up wrong. Boy, when you make fun of your parent, that shit comes back on you threefold. It's like the whole Wicca thing. If you do evil unto somebody, it comes back on you threefold, right? So you steal a slice of bread from their loaf, you're going to lose 3 slices of bread down the road, right? Like that kind of shit. Boy, I used to make fun of him and I would laugh. And he would just give me a dirty look or whatever. He took it pretty good humor. He had a pretty good sense of humor. But now, man, I'm realizing you can have bad days. Like, I think I have some sleep apnea. I think that's one of the problems. So I'm not breathing correctly when I sleep. So it's like I'll wake up with the headaches and, it's just, I'll probably in my sleep, I'll stop breathing for a minute or two. He used to do that. I'd be over there working late or something. I would hear him just stop breathing. And he would start again. So I'm sure I inherited that from him. I don't have anybody I share a bed with to tell me this, but that, seems to be the case. So that could be why I wake up feeling like shit. But some days I just wake up feeling really bad. It's been a struggle lately, last few weeks. Maybe it's the change in seasons. I don't know what it is, man. But I'm having more time to work. I don't have as many side hustles right now. The next side gig I got is where I'm driving is going to be the day before Thanksgiving, right? So I've got like almost maybe 2 weeks from today actually is my next gig. So I've got 13 straight days where I don't really have to do anything. Should be getting a lot done, and I want to. Every day I'm motivated. I want to get more done, but it's hard, man, to fit anything else in. I think so. Right, what I want to do right now is these are my goals. I'll tell you this. My personal goals right now is to get a full month ahead on Patreon with everything where I do the post and schedule it, right? And so, like, I could drop dead today and people would still be getting updates for a full month on everything. And what that is right now on Mondays, I've got 2 Demon Slayer episodes coming out. On Wednesdays, I've got Peacemaker, which is finished. I've finished doing those. I've got Only Murders in Buildings going to replace Peacemaker on Wednesday. I've done 4 of those 6 videos. And then I'm starting Penguin, right? Which the first episode of that's going to drop the last day of the year, December 31st. So my plan is to finish like Only Murders like over the weekend and stuff like that. So that's another 3 videos done. And then, do the first episode of Penguin. So what I'm targeting here is to have December completely finished before we reach December. But anyway, so we've got like, Peacemaker, Only Murders in the Building, Penguin is on Wednesdays. Thursdays, the Apothecary Diaries. And then Saturday is 2 episodes of, there's 2 episodes of Apothecary Diaries on Thursday. And Saturday is 2 episodes of Teen Titans, that DC animated show that had like 4 seasons. I'm already finished with season 2. So my goal is to have December completely done before I reach December. If I can accomplish that, I'm really ahead of the game. Then I can just keep ahead and just do a couple weeks, and maybe then I can be 2 months ahead, right? If I can get to 2 months ahead, so maybe by the end of December, I'll have finished all the way through February as far as Patreon goes. Just talking about Patreon here. I can be all the way to the end of February. Then what I can do, that means in January, I can do nothing for Patreon. I will be completely. Then now these are the Patreon exclusive videos, right? Which are like edited and posted, and you watch them in the videos in the thing, right? So you just click on it, you watch it. You don't have to sync anything. They're not full reactions. So I'm just talking about all this. Those are the most time consuming things. I'm talking about all the edited stuff. I can completely take January off. That's the goal of all this. Get 2 months ahead, and then take one of those 2 months completely off. Do nothing for Patreon for the month of January, and focus on all this other shit I got to do. Which is, these other shows I want to keep having early access to. Shit like I'm doing Gentama and JoJo. And then do other shit like I want to do, after I'm finished with Plurbius, I want to do Welcome to Derry, and do that. So I could spend a whole month just on shit like that. So, ironically, January is also the month where we have playoff games. So, I can see a world where I at least try to do one of those, especially if the Colts make the playoffs. I can see that. I don't currently have access to any of this stuff, but some of these things might be on like YouTube TV, or it might be like a pay per view kind of thing. If anybody besides Power of Death gives a shit about me doing a reaction to a playoff game in January, comment here, and that will motivate me to think more about this. Maybe that'll bring new people to my channel, but it's not something I'm going to regularly do. It would just be like a one-time thing, probably. If they make it all the Super Bowl, I can totally see myself doing it for the Super Bowl. Do a live stream kind of situation. I still got to figure out how to live stream. The camera's fighting with the software. So, and I just have not had time to figure it out. But yeah, so I've been saying, I'm having bad days, but I'm also having good days. Like today, I just finished, I watched 7 episodes of the Pocket Theory Diaries, edited 6 of them, exported them, uploaded them. So now, as of today, the one drops tomorrow. After that one drops tomorrow, I'll be 2 weeks ahead. And so I just need to do that another couple times, and then I would actually be 2 months ahead. It's not unrealistic, really. I'm pretty far ahead on the Wednesday slot, like I said. I'm still 4 weeks ahead there without doing anything. So that won't be that hard. Then it would just be getting ahead with Demon Slayer and Teen Titans. So it's very doable. And that's the goal. So by December 1st, I want to have all December done. And by January 1st, I want to have all January and February done. If I can accomplish that, which I think is a very realistic goal, the world is my oyster in January. So that's the game plan. And that is the end of the Q&A. I had to break this up into multiple videos, so I'm not sure exactly how long this will be. So I'm going to make a decision in editing whether this is 1 or 2 videos. But this one, I think, went longer than a lot of them did. So, but yeah, this is fun. So I just... I'm still laughing. I just finished episode 14 of Demon Slayer. It's my anime episode of the 2-week period. And even though I'm going to record the podcast and today or tomorrow, I could wait to talk about this. I just want to talk about this now because it's so funny. It's the funniest episode of the series. And there are some episodes of Kaguya-sama, Love is War, maybe even Great Teacher Osinka that are funnier. But this was consistently hilarious throughout. And I always say this, it's the character dynamics. You establish the characters first, then you create character comedy with how they clash against each other. And we had a triangle of hilarity here. We have the coward who's scared of everything. Then he turns into a rage monster at the end of the episode, which is just absolutely hilarious. He has an epic rant. One of the best rants I've ever seen. Then you have, of course, the steady calmness of our hero or protagonist, whose name I can't pronounce. Tenzia or something like that. He's just constantly calm and nice. He's the nicest person we've ever seen, even though he's a stone cold-blooded killer when it comes to demons, right? He will fight. But he is just the nicest, calmest person I've ever met. Then we have Pig Boy, who, it turns out, does not have a head of a boar, but it's just a mask he wears. Who's absolutely insane and just completely batshit crazy in all the best ways. And just the three-way dynamics between these 3 characters is just absolutely fantastic the entire episode. So, it's just unbelievable how funny this is. Now, I don't think this is a straight up comedy. Like, it's drama. There's dramatic elements. My God, this shit was hilarious. It just, the best comedies, or like I said, character. This is what I think sitcoms have lost. Sitcoms in the 50s and 60s understood you just get these zany characters, you throw them together. The Odd Couple is a perfect example. You make them very, very. The stronger you can make the characters, where it's like we know at a sight how they react. One of them was a slob and one of them was prim and proper. We know, so if they walk into a fast food restaurant and there's flies everywhere, we know which one of them would be pissed off. That's the sign of great characters. Those characters don't exist anymore. They haven't existed for 40 years. But if they walk into a restaurant and the place just looks shabby and there are flies on the table, we know which one would be mad. If either one of them, right? It does, can we say that for other characters? We don't specifically know some of these other lesser written characters, how they would react in certain situations. Here, we know for a fact how the Odd Couple would react. They walk into that situation. So, sitcom characters from, the last 20 years. Now, I have a small sample size. But do you know for a fact how some of the characters from How I Met Your Mother would react to those situations? Do we know... The Seinfeld characters are pretty well drawn. The problem was, to me, now I'm not a huge Seinfeld fan. They felt all the same. They were all cynical. They were all assholes. They were all selfish. There wasn't enough difference between the four of them. They all just kind of merged in the middle, right? Like, they all became the same character. I know they had a little, the fat one was the most selfish and the most ridiculous in the things that he would do. And then Seinfeld was maybe the most normal. If you could be, they're all assholes, but So what I'm saying. I think sitcoms have lost that, and the best comedic writers. There are a lot of times that if you're just doing a movie, the plot can be the comedy. That's how I would do it. My characters, in my comedies weren't particularly strong. Most of we're just doing a movie, so the plot's gonna be the comedy. But if you're doing a long running story, you really have to. You establish the characters very clearly. This is specifically exactly who they are. This is how they react to these situations. You really impress upon the audience. Okay, this is who they are. This is how they react. You make that very clear. Then you get into the comedy because you clash this with this with this. We have a complete coward who still feels strongly about a couple things. And then the epic rant at the end of the episode was twofold. First, he was so goddamn scared of this demon coming out of the box. He was just absolutely terrified. Then he saw she was a cute girl. Then he turned and it became an epic rant. So it was a two-part comedy, as both aspects of his character. That's how you do it, man. It was perfect. And this is what I think a lot of the long-running comedies just don't do. You have to firmly and completely and totally establish who the characters are first. And you have to know that, and the actor has to know it, and everybody has to be on the same page. This is who the character is. Let's keep that very consistent. Then you can get the comedy from it. So we know if they walk into a field and there's a scary monster, we know how all three characters are going to react. The coward is going to shit himself and curl up in a corner and cry. The psycho pig boy is going to immediately charge and try to take him out. And then our hero is in the middle of that. He's like, okay, I'm going to be cautious. I'm going to analyze the situation. What's the best way to defeat this creature? Those are the three reactions. I know this before it's ever happened. They have not walked into a field and seen a monster yet. But I already know. Because they're strongly drawn characters. But this is how you do it, man. And these are such strong characters and the writing is so strong. I continue to be surprised where people were talking about this was a mediocre show, And again, mediocre doesn't mean bad. The internet and the kids have tried to make the word mediocre mean bad. It doesn't. It just means middle of the road. Average. 50%. And that was my impression. Nobody said it was bad, but nobody said it was great either. I got this right now. I've currently got it up 75-80% because the characters are very strong. The comedy is unbelievable. The comedy is absolutely hilarious. So, it's really, the show's really working for me. And this episode is just hilarious. It's just, and the whole, I don't know how long they're going to stay together. It's a very monster of the week type episodic type thing. He meets different people. He's a traveler. What was that? Was it called Kung Fu? There was a TV series in the 70s where it was this guy was just traveling around. He knew martial arts and he was just helping people. It's that kind of story. You just wandering the earth. You've got abilities to help people. The Hawk was another one. You're wandering the earth. You got abilities to help people, and you just you meet people, and there's you and one other main character, and nothing else is everybody else is different. So I don't think he's going to be with these people for long. But I'm going to relish every minute he's with them because they really play off each other very well. Just comedic genius. So one last thing, I did look up how, because of course now the coward is in love with the demon because she's so hot. But so I looked that up. I was like, wait a minute, isn't she like really young? And so apparently she was 12 when she was turned into a demon, and Reddit seems to believe, with the time the season came out anyway, that demons don't age. So whatever age they are turned, they stay that physical age for all eternity, right? I guess they're kind of immortal or something. They're like vampires that way. But you still, and there was an argument in this, as a 5-year-old Reddit thread, there was an argument in this Reddit thread that age refers to the years you've been on Earth, not how you have physically grown. Case in point, Angel will say he's over 200 years old, but physically he looks 25, which is the age he was when he was turned. But he will say, and Spike will say he's 200 years old, and he was turned when he was like 20 or something, right? So the master, I think, is like 1,000 years old, and so he'll tell people he's 1,000 years old. Now he looks 1,000 because great makeup. So vampires will say how many years they've been on Earth, not how physically old they are. So now she was 12 when she was turned, but it's been 2 years, so now she's 14, even though she's only physically 12. So either way, that's a problem. Physically 12 is a problem, no matter if your mind is 1,000. Physically 12 is a problem. But then you're only mentally 14, and even are you even really mentally 14? You slept the whole time, so lived experience is still only 12. We're not even talking about the fact she's a demon that don't talk. So him being in love with her, whatever age he is, and he's clearly older than 12, the coward, is problematic as hell. So I assume this is just going to be yearning from afar, and that's it, if we even take it that far. So I don't know about all that, but that's going to be interesting when I watch it. I'm getting ready to watch another couple episodes, but I've stopped here after watching 14 just to talk about this for a minute. But yeah, man, just absolutely hilarious, fantastic. If you've never watched Demon Slayer, which I assume most of you have, because every time I turn around, somebody's talking about it somewhere, right? So I think most people have seen it. I think it's really good. I'm really having a good time. So, after that indeterminate amount of time, we're ready for the main topic. I will say, I'm really liking Demon Slayer. I just did 7 straight episodes of Apothecary Diaries, so I'm kind of in that headspace. Makes me want to do more, right? It's weird. I'd only done 8 up to that point. I'd done 4 and 4. Then I did 7 straight. So there's something about you just stay in that world for a while, and it's like, wow, the ebb and flow of the storytelling, how they all connect, and how each episode leads into the nexus. And that's the same thing with Demon Slayer. Demon Slayer also kind of, each episode kind of leads to the next. They don't finish at a closure type spot, and then the next is a brand new day with a brand new adventure. Which is fine. Like, that's the way most anime is. We wrap up the storyline, next episode, brand new day, brand new adventure. You don't even have to have seen the last episode. Demon Slayer and Apothecary Diaries, they kind of, less Apothecary Diaries, it's connected, but if you don't notice the connection, it's okay. You still get a full story. Demon Slayer, it kind of just, each one flows into the next one. Like, that's why I started skipping their cold opens. Their cold opens is literally just a replay of the last few minutes of the previous episode. So I'm at a point where I'm just skipping the Demon Slayer cold opens. Just, I look at them, see if they're the same, and then move on until after the theme song. But I'm excited to get more into Demon Slayer, because it's got, in my head, it has a rivalry with the Apothecary Diaries. Because for the longest time, I started Demon Slayers like a week or two before I started Apothecary Diaries. So it's always been, as far as what I've recorded, it's always been 4 episodes ahead. So, for instance, I would have 12 episodes done in Demon Slayer, and I did 4 to get up to 8 of Apothecary Diary. So it was always behind. It was always like 4 episodes behind, right? So now I've done 14 episodes of Demon Slayer, and I've done, let me see, 15 episodes. It's finally out. I haven't edited the 15th because I haven't watched the 16th yet. But I've actually done 15 episodes. So for the first time, Apothecary Diaries has pulled ahead. They're racing each other. See which one of them has more episodes. It's all just in my head. Nobody's seeing this. Nobody's thinking about this shit. They're just, they're probably people just watch one or the other. But for me, they're in competition. And when one of them gets too far ahead, it's like looking back and giggling at the other one. Yeah, look at you, punk. Look how slow you are. And then the other one gets ahead, they look back and giggle. It's a rivalry that's only happening in my head, But I amuse myself with that, right? So currently, Demon Slayer's they're a game behind in the standings. If you look at the standings for making the playoffs, only one of them can make the playoffs, and Demon Slayer is currently a game behind. So I'm going to record some Demon Slayer next. They're going to race ahead. Then I'm going to record some Apothecary Diaries, and they're going to race ahead. And I'm like I said, I'm having fun with all this. Nobody else cares. This has nothing to do with the main topic. This is just because we just finished talking about Demon Slayers. But yeah, man, I like that they kind of started the same. I had a similar rivalry going on with Steins Gate and Fate Stay Night Zero. Steins Gate Zero and Fate Stay Night Zero because they both had zeros. Very different shows, but I was amusing myself with that kind of stuff. So anyway, to the main topic. Why is anime so obsessed with food? There's levels to this shit. First, there is the fact I think Japan as a culture is obsessed with food. And let's go ahead and put this out here immediately. I have a very interesting relationship with Japanese food. I think, and having never been to Japan, Dad has been to Japan, and he would talk to me about it. But I've obviously never been. I've been to one real Japanese steakhouse that was in Los Angeles. It was like $100 a plate. It was a Japanese steakhouse where they cook it in front of you, but it was different than any ever one I'd ever been to. Like the food was different. The way he cooked it was different. The presentation, this guy was actually trained in Japan, right? The presentation was different. And the customs were different. Like, you would have 8 people who, a lot of them don't even know each other. But none of you are supposed to start eating until the last person's been served, right? And you're supposed to completely fill your plate first. Everybody's been served, and he's cooked everything, then you're allowed to start eating. That's like the custom, as it explained to me, at this expensive place, right? Every other Japanese steakhouse. So it's kind of like the Japanese food I've experienced here in America is like Tex-Mex. The Mexican food that I experience in America is not real Mexican food, right? It's a hybrid. It's Americanized. Just the Italian food I've experienced here in America is not real Italian food. It's Americanized, right? Dad said he went to Italy. Now, this was in the 80s, but he went to Italy and had some pizza there. That's his most recent time. He'd been there before, but this is the most recent time he'd had pizza. And it was it's flatbread. That's all it is. They have flatbread. They put ingredients on it. It's not round. Usually it's like square because that flatbread is just like done in squares. And it had like a ocean of grease and oil. Not just grease. It was also oil. Grease and oil on the top of it. And you couldn't just pick it up and take it a bite, or you're going to have that entire ocean of grease and oil on your chest, right? So you have to eat it with a knife and fork. That's what became pizza in the United States. And then what happened was, because the United States exports everything via the media and the entertainment, and we just broadcast all this crap that we do, just all this slop and shit that we do, we just force it down everybody else's throat in every other country in the world, right? Just here you go. Let's use a fire hose and just spray our slop on all of you, and you get all over you, and you can't distinguish truth from fiction anymore, and you don't know where anything came from. So, Italian flatbread went to America, became pizza, and then went back to Italy. So you can now get pizza, American pizza, in Italy, but it didn't come from Italy. It's a hybrid. It's not actually from Italy. It's American slop. It's crap, right? And everybody in the world now, you can get like American pizza, right? And we have different kinds of pizza. We got Chicago pizza, New York pizza, just regular pizza. Like, I never gave a shit about the rivalry between Chicago and New York. God damn, I don't care. But I will say this: New York pizza is real pizza. Chicago pizza is basically lasagna. You know, it's soup on bread essentially. Just I've had both. I've had both in the cities. I've been in Chicago eating Chicago pizza. I've been in New York eating New York pizza. They're both good. They're just not the Chicago the same pizza. But anyway, so that's what can happen, right? Like you know, here America have our flatbread with a little bit of cheese on it, right? And America's like, well, that cheese is fine. You know what that needs? That needs some meat. And you know what that needs? That needs some more spices and let's throw some tomato sauce on that shit, right? Like, you know, spaghetti sauce is probably the first thing that was ever thrown on there. Let's throw some spaghetti sauce, and then they refined it, right? And you know what? This is fine. It's a little piece of flatbread, and you've got some ingredients on there. But let's make it bigger and then cut it up in pieces. I don't know how it became a circle. I don't know the whole history of origin of pizza. But it just became bastardized and Americanized and distorted and morphed and, you know, metamorphized and all that shit. It evolved into what we know now as pizza, but that's not Italian food, right? Its ancestors are Italian, but it's not Italian, right? So just like what you get I've had an actual authentic Spanish dish, and that is so different from Tex-Mex. It's like they might as well come from two different planets, man. Spain might as well be in Pluto, and you know, Tex-Mex might as well be in Mercury. They're just so different from each other. But that authentic Mexican cuisine went down to Mexico, had a bunch of sex with Native American food. Then, you know, so it's not now it's a mixture of Spanish and Native American food, right? Then it goes up into America, and our big, sloppy, burly, hairy knuckled asses gets their little fat, hairy knuckles on this food and Americanizes it. So you already had Spanish food that was having sex with Native American food, all kind of getting using local ingredients to what the ingredients they had in Spain. So that also changes shit. Now let's take it up to America and let these big behemoth cavemen just slam it against the wall and throw some shit on there and just, you know, make it good for our bland ass palates, right? And it becomes Tex-Mex, Texas people, right? So that's even, you know, that's a whole other culture. You got Texas culture, then you got the rest of the United States, right? So then first it goes through the Texas lens, and those big burly hairy knuckle bastards get their fingers all over it. Then it can go to other places, and then by the time you get to Rhode Island, it's become Taco Bell. Oh, that Spanish cuisine, which, like I said, I've had like Spanish. It was cooked, it was baked fish or something with some side shit, right? Like a little bit of beans and some noodles and stuff like that. And the sauce was just exquisite, right? I got that at I don't remember if it was Boston or if it was New York City. It was some fine dining place that was, you know, the people were straight out the boat from Spain, right? So it was as authentic as you can get across the coast, across the ocean, right? So I had that, right? So that meal went through 4 different iterations and became Taco Bell. That's the end result. Okay, so I don't go that far. Like, yes, I have a shitty palate. I have a bland, hairy knuckled American palate, but it's not that much, man. Come on, man. You know, so I take a couple steps back. I prefer like Tex-Mex is what I like, right? You know, La Bambas, like, you know, they're Spanish people. They're Mexicans. They come across the border from Mexico, and they get a little restaurant, and they'll be called the Bambas or La Fiesta, or, you know, it's one of those sit down places that they'll have franchises, 3 or 4 different franchises in the county area, the Tri-City area, or whatever, and the names are different from all over. You know, all kinds of different Hispanic names, depending on what part of the country you're in, right? But you know what I'm talking about. And they'll put the bowl of the chips out there, and they'll put the sauce out there, and you start there, and then you can order the burritos and the tacos and stuff like that. The Tex-Mex shit. My personal preference is Diablo shrimp. Essentially, it's Diablo, and then the word for shrimp is a really long word. I recognize it just because I order it. That's what I order. But I'll get like the Diablo shrimp, which is like, you know, just basically grilled shrimp with this awesome spicy sauce that's just kind of thick that's over it. And they serve it, it's almost like a fajita. They'll have that. It'll be cooked up in a pile, and then they'll have beans and rice and a bunch of veggies and stuff like onions and lettuce and stuff like that. And then they'll give you some tortillas, and you basically make your own tortilla thing. That's how you eat it. That's what I was given. So that is not Taco Bell. So anyway, my point in all this is, I have a lot of frame of reference and context to understand the evolution of going from Spain to Mexico, Native Americans, Texas, America, and all the iterations. And I've had a lot of food at some of these more authentic places in Los Angeles to see, okay, this is what it would have been like if we had skipped the Texas step, right? I didn't like it that much. Like it was, I ate at like a place that is authentic food from Honduras, and it's very similar to Mexican food, but it's just different enough that I just didn't like it, right? So it's like, for me, I needed to pass through Texas for me to like it, right? Like if I was in Mexico, I don't think I would like it that much. Like I needed to pass it just for my own personal preference. But in no way do I think that I'm experiencing either Spanish food, authentic Spanish food, or authentic Mexican food. I realize this is a very Americanized version of what actually exists in those countries. So, I don't know the process of Japanese cuisine to my dinner table. I don't know what iterations it went through. Did it go from Japan to California? And you had a lot of... now, I know you had Chinese people working the railroad yards, so if we were talking about Chinese food, I think I could probably follow the progress better. Because you had Chinese people were working to build railroads. So they were there, and they were cooking, and when they finished there, they'd made a lot of money. They took that money and they went to various places, California, Los Angeles, San Francisco, maybe even the East Coast, some places, started restaurants with their authentic food, right? And then through the course of what people liked and what people didn't like, they want to serve Americans. That's why most of these Chinese buffets will have hot dogs and, French fries. Man, we don't go to a Chinese restaurant for French fries, man. We're trying to get your shit. But they do that because you get these burly cavemen Americans coming here. I don't recognize none of this. This is scary. And when I get scared, I don't pay, So, I don't know. But if it was Chinese food, I think I could probably follow the progress and think, okay, probably came here in the 1800s. Spent some time feeding the other people, like anybody around there who wanted to pay them while they were working on the railroad. Hey, man, what you're making looks pretty good. Can I give you a little money for some of that? That kind of shit. And they get feedback. Okay, this is what they like. This is what they don't like. Then they open the restaurants, and then they get more customer feedback and stuff. So, Centers, when did that take place? It took place right after the Civil... No. It took place, I think it was the 20s. But that was a really good example of how the Chinese were kind of like a Switzerland. They were kind of like a neutral party during all the race wars between blacks and whites. So Chinese people would have a store for the blacks, and across the street they'd have a store for the whites, right? And it was run by the same people. And people could even go back and forth. But they had to have separate stores because of segregation and just all this shit that was happening, right? Chinese people were making money, man. They're really good business people. I know that's a stereotype, but everything I've ever seen. Everything I've ever seen in the business sphere has told me. I'm sure there are people who are Chinese who are shitty at business, but I've never seen it. Like every Chinese person I've ever seen is really good, and I think it's handed down from generation. They're just taught from a very early age. This is the good business practice. This is what works, and this is what doesn't. Right? They were the same with that was selling like goods and clothing and shit like that, supplies. It was the same thing with the restaurants. They throw up a bunch of these cheap restaurants, get the families to work, and they make a lot of money. And then they use that money to open up more it's in bigger cities. And it's a whole process over the course of 150 years. They come over here for the railroads in the 1860s, I think. So now it has been 160 years now. So 160 years for the menu to evolve from mainland China to Americanized versions of these dishes. So I've never had authentic Chinese food. I've never been to one of those expensive Chinese restaurants in LA, unfortunately. I went to that Japanese place one time. But I've never been to... So I don't know what mainland China food tastes like. I don't know how far removed it is. I have a little bit of perspective with the Spanish food, right? But I don't know enough history to even hazard a guess of how Japanese food migrated here and how it morphed and changed and for how long. I have no idea. I so I don't know. Like I can't even hazard a guess. I don't know when they would have came here in mass. I don't know when they would have started opening restaurants. I don't know when how long the menu has had to morph and evolve. So I can't speak to how different what I like is from what's actually over there. But like keep that in mind because there may be people who live in Japan right now in this moment watching this video saying, "Look at this effing idiot," you know. You don't know what the hell he's talking about. Yeah, I don't. But I want to put from this disclaimer out there at the very beginning. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. So I can only talk about what I've been exposed to here in America. And that's the Japanese steakhouse is probably the highest evolution. Like I said, I've had one for sure chef I know was trained in Japan serve me one time. And I don't know how he would be trained in Japan, but then he'd come over here and okay, well that was Japan. Here's what we do in America. So I don't know. Like I have no idea. But I have that, and then there's Japanese steakhouse. I've been to a lot of this. I would have business meetings there. I take the entire crew there sometimes. You know, it's relatively inexpensive. I mean, you can get expensive really fast. The one in Japan with that Japanese guy, I think it was like $100 a plate. I forget how much. It was really expensive. You know, maybe $50 a plate or something like that. But a lot of times you're talking about a really good Japanese steakhouse in a place like Charlotte or Richmond or I think I went to one in Boston. I never went to one in New York. But that Boston one was probably $45 a plate. You know, in Charlotte you can get to up to $30 a plate. You know, so those chefs, if they weren't trained in Japan, a lot of them in those places, the expensive cities, the big cities, where they work a lot and they get really good tips and stuff like that, they make a lot of money. If they weren't trained in Japan themselves, they were trained by people who are trained in Japan. So it's adjacent. So I don't know, but that's my vast experience. And then you have some of these like strip malls, Japanese places. It's all to go. It's not cooked like in a table in front of you. They cook it back there. It's similar food. It's a little bit lower quality, a lot of the same elements, and you get it to go, or you can get it there, but it's not cooked in front of you. So that's like a lower level. Cooked in front of you to me seems like the best tasting version of it, right? So, having said all that, I have a interesting relationship with Japanese food in that I like the Japanese steakhouse type cuisine, which I think, in my uninformed opinion, is probably 5% or less of an actual full ass Japanese cuisine menu of anything you can get in Japan. Probably what I actually really, really like a lot. I say I love Japanese food. I think what I'm talking about is 5% of what Japanese food actually is. And I didn't come to that conclusion until I started watching anime. Because there ain't a goddamn thing I ever see in anime that I've ever had. Like, there hasn't been like fried rice, white rice. That's it. The only two things I've ever seen in any anime ever that I have personally experienced and eaten myself has been white rice and fried rice. And that's about it. I don't think there's another goddamn thing. Like, nothing, man. They be talking about tokiyaki, whatever. Like, I'm starting to look at, I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to cook in 2 weeks. Boy, I need to get on it too, man. Because these weeks come fast. So, I'm cooking an authentic Japanese dish in 2 weeks. So the pressure's on me. So, I'm not sure what I'm doing yet. Because a lot of it is like I can't afford to buy a bunch of random ass ingredients that I only use at one time that don't come in small quantities. Like I priced one of these things out and said, well, it looks like I can probably manage this. And most of it I would never use. I can't imagine another use for any of this shit. We were getting up to like $75, man. And I just don't have the money like that to just for a YouTube video, or yeah, it'd be a YouTube video, right? So I don't know, man. I'm gonna have to figure something out. I can't just be out here in these streets trying to make fried rice. I got to make something that I've never had before. So I've got 2 weeks to figure that out. That's next week's problem. But for now, though, like Tokiyaki is the one thing, and I know I'm really brutalizing that pronunciation, that I can even remember the name of. But well, then we got the whole ramen shit, and I have my old cup of super ramen, or I have the bricks of ramen. Like the bricks of ramen, you used to be able to get it for like 25 cents. I think they've jacked the price up to 33 cents now. Outrageous. It's like a brick. You just drop it in hot water. They got some spices. You put it there. Mix it up. It's dinner, right? And then these mofos on the anime, they show us what the dish looks like, the ramen they're getting. And they're talking about, like, they got all kinds of shit floating on top of this. Like, I think there's ramen noodles in there somewhere. But then they got all this other shit. They got like an entire fried egg and, pork. And, and I'm not a big pork. I love bacon and sausages. That's about it when it comes to pork. I don't really like, chunks of pork, right? So I never get the pork fried rice. But, I don't know, man. It's like, that doesn't look like ramen. So I don't think I've had like actual ass ramen, right? The way they be doing ramen. I think even the noodles are different. This whole brick of ramen, this is some American shit. Just doesn't feel like what they would have over there, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know. So, it seems like, this is just my external point of view. I will sit here and tell you I love Japanese food. I think I maybe even picked that number 1 or 2 or something when I was talking about food of the world, right? We're talking about barracuda with Greek food, which is really good. And then you got like Italian food's really good. You'll never hear me say that about the UK. So, there's levels of this shit. But Greece and Italy are side by side, by the way, battling each other out about who's got better food. I think Italy's probably got the upper hand, but, they're bigger. So, I don't know. I will sit here and say I love Japanese food, but I'm only talking about 5%. I'm talking about the fried rice. I'm talking about the fried onions. I'm talking about the fried shrimp. That's the appetizer at the Japanese steakhouse. And then I will get fried shrimp, and if I'm really, if it's my birthday or something, I'll get some fried lobster up in there too. And then they got the fried spaghetti they put on there, and they give you all this shit, and you get that little soup before you get the other shit. They bring you out the soup that's got the 2 pieces of mushroom in there. And it supposedly is chicken soup, right? It's chicken flavored soup. It's really hot, and it's really good. Now, it's always a great way to start one of these meals. Because it's hot. And you just sit there and drink the shit. And there's a couple little pieces of onion in there that I really like. It's got a really good flavor. But there ain't no damn chicken in this. There's no chicken meat in it. And I don't even think a chicken flew over the top of the pot even a single time while they were cooking this chicken soup. They say it's chicken soup. But you didn't even have a chicken in the kitchen, anywhere in the kitchen, when you were cooking this shit. We ain't even talking about what was in the pot. He wasn't even in the back corner, man. There ain't no chicken anywhere in sight while you're cooking this shit. It does not taste like chicken. There's no chicken chunks in it. But it's really good soup. So you get the soup, and then I would get a shrimp tempura a lot of times as an appetizer, because it takes a while for this dude to cook everything. So I'll be digging that. So shrimp tempura with where the tempura bread will cover the shrimp, and then you get the vegetables with it, where you get onions and carrots and so I didn't really like the cauliflower or the zucchini, but I'd give that to somebody else. But I definitely dig on the green pepper covered with tempura, the onions and the shrimp and the carrots, right? So then I'm getting the rice, I'm getting the shrimp, I'm getting the lobster. I've never really been a steak person. I like cheeseburgers, but hamburgers and stuff. Never really been like a give me steak, right? Never been my thing. So Dad would always get the steak. So and every now and then I get chicken just to mix it up, right? So they would fry some. There is the chicken. Now we have chicken, right? He was in a different kitchen because he wasn't anywhere near that soup. I'll tell you that much. So I love all that shit, but that's my exposure to Japanese food. Then we get on these animes, and we get these people. They be having like octopus and squid and the fish head and bento boxes and sushi. And this shit is just scary, man. Like, yes, I've been exposed to sushi. I never tried it because it's a little scary, right? And I don't know what I would like and what I wouldn't like. and it comes out there. It's wrapped in it looks like a fish skin, or maybe it's seaweed, and you got the rice that's there, and you got other shit crammed in the middle of this thing, and that's just one kind of sushi, and then there's different names for it, like sashimi or whatever. So I've never had any of that shit. California rolls and all this stuff. A lot of the actors and directors and producers I'd work with, they love sushi. So they'd always be getting shit. I'd always be exposed to it. Yeah, I'm going to get a California roll. That should be expensive too, man. They talk about one California roll, $35. The hell? It's like this much, man. Like from here, it's like, about the size of this damn phone, man. That's about how much food you're getting. And they be talking about $35. And my entire ass steakhouse meal may be $35 if I get the tempura appetizer and I'm getting a drink and shit. And that's just their starter. California roll, man. That's the only one I remember the name of. There's all kinds of... They'd have this menu with 2 sides and a bunch of boxes you can check and shit. This is all the effing sushi you can get, man. It's over my head. I've never had an education in sushi, so I've never tried. I'm sure there's a lot of shit I'll try. I need a partner who is the most patient person in the world. I tell them everything I like. They say, okay, well, you'd probably like this. Let's order this. Let me check this box and this, and I think it comes with different spices and sauces and shit. And then there's that green mustard thing that you can dip it into. Is that wasabi? I'm not sure. And that I've tried that with I'll put a shrimp in it or something. It seems pretty good. Maybe some horseradish in there. I'm not sure. But so I've worked with a lot of people. I always thought they were pretentious, but now I'm trying to open my horizons. So I've never done the whole sushi thing. So there's all that going on. But anime doesn't really do a lot with sushi. I don't think, other than, I think it was Great Teacher Asinka liked sushi. And there were a couple plot lines were about sushi. There may have been some other anime I watched it, but that was a while ago. That was over a year ago, probably. The shit that I watched really was Naruto and Boruto. They're big into the sushi, or they're big into the ramen, so they be having the ramen bowls and shit. And then One Piece is big on the octopus and squid takoyaki thing, whatever the hell that was. A lot of people like dumplings, and then there's these wooden sticks with a bunch of dumplings stuck on them. Is it dessert? Is it a meal? Is it meatballs with some kind of neon, breading or something they put on top of it so it looks all these different colors? Like the British be talking about pie. Man, you bring me a pie and it looks like it's a casserole inside that shit. I'm expecting cherry pie. I break off into that, and you talking about some shepherd shit. The hell you talking about, man? You trying to get shot? I don't even have a gun and you trying to get shot. Shepherd's pie, man, I'm trying to look. I like pot pie, but call it pot pie, and I know not to order it. I'm trying to get some dessert over here, so it can be confusing. With the British with their pie crap, they got dumplings, but sometimes the dumplings seem to be dessert in some of these animes, and be looking like the same shit. They got the stick with the balls, right? Phrasing, So Gintama seems to be sweet, I think. But then One Piece and I think we may have had some of this on Naruto, Boruto, and a couple of these other animes. They seem to be a savory dish. So I'm very confused in all that. To me, dumplings is this shit that Mom used to serve that looked like little pillows. And it'd be in with a bunch of noodles, it was some kind of and I think they were just bread. I think it was the entire dumpling was just bread. It didn't have anything inside. It was all pillow, right? They'd be about this size, look like marshmallows. Be about this size, right? There you go. Yeah, it'd be about that size. And so she would serve this shit. You'd get a bowl, and it'd be like some noodles with a little bit of beef, and in these dumplings. So noodles are already carbohydrates, and dumplings just seems like a brick of carbohydrates. I think it was just, you had the flour on the outside and the flour on the inside, and it's all just, flour, right? It's all I don't know, man. I never liked it. It was like eating a bread sandwich. Okay, so you got the 2 slices of bread, but then you got the bread in the middle. There was yeah, we were poor. I mean, Mom, God bless her soul and all that, she knew how to make two things that were just spectacular, which was grilled cheese. Finally figured out she put oregano in them. It took me about 20 years to figure that one out. Exquisite grilled cheese. And she's really good making salmon patties. I haven't figured out that recipe yet. But other than that, she'd be doing shit like taco night would be a bowl with all the taco ingredients. We get lettuce, cheese, hamburger, onions, tomatoes in a bowl, and you get a spoon. And some Frito chips. But oh yeah, the Frito chips were the shell, right? The shell. That was taco night. It was, yeah, it could have been worse. I could have been living in a box under a bridge. So, I'm just saying. But the worst was, there was a beef thing, but then there's also chicken and dumplings. That was another one. So it'd be the same scenario, right? You wouldn't have those little pieces of beef in there, but you'd have the noodles, and then you'd have the chicken would be the dumpling, right? But then you'd have all this bread, the pillow around the chicken, right? So I actually like that because it wasn't just like a bread sandwich, right? Like, it wasn't just like this mass of flour, Maybe cooked, but you know what I'm saying when I say flour, right? So, yeah, but sometimes then it would be just the bread pillows and you'd have slices of grilled chicken in there with the noodles, right? So it varied. But how the hell did I get off on that? Oh yeah, we were talking about dumplings. So my experience with dumplings is bread brick that looks like a small pillow. Maybe every now and then you get some delicious chicken up in there. But that's my experience with dumplings. Dumplings means different things in different cultures, man. British dumplings are probably way worse. German dumplings, ugh. Ugh. Apologies to any of my German friends out there. Love you guys. I don't know if I have any more. Klaus is German, but I'm not sure he watches my shit anymore. But whatever, man. Like, I'm no disrespect to any Germans out there. But your dumplings are trash. So, I don't know, like, what a Japanese dumpling consists of or what's in it or whether it be any good or not. So, I said all this. I've been talking for like over a half hour. And I'm trying to arrive at this point, which is a very simple statement. But I wanted to preface it with all that shit. First, I don't know what I'm talking about. Second of all, I have very low exposure, other than the 5% that I actually really like. And the 5% is just an estimate. I have no idea. I'm going to say this. I don't think I've seen any anime food that I thought looked good. Because they don't seem to be very heavy on the shrimp. They'd rather do squid and octopi. And I can't think of two things more disgusting to eat than squid and octopus. So maybe liver. But, I don't understand why they're obsessed with those two things, but those two things just miss me. So you're missing me on that shit. I've never tried the sushi, so I don't know about the sushi. And the bento box seems to be like sushi, and then, you get some little tiny squids and shit. Like, I don't know if it's something that's been carved to look like a squid, like Love is War would do that. They'd have the bento box. They have these little pieces of, like, I think they were squid, but they look like whole squid, though. So it's like they were carved to look like squid or something. Or they at least have the head. I'm not sure. So I don't know if they were tiny squid or if it was just carved to look like that or what, but that seemed to be a delicacy. So, Dad loved the food over there. But, and one of my lost opportunities, I never really got him to describe exactly what he would be getting over there, what it'd be like, and how it would compare to the American versions. I wish I had done that. Like, it's a huge lost opportunity. But I've become obsessed with Japanese culture since I've started watching anime. So none of the food looks any good. But I'm intrigued, which is why I want to cook something in a couple weeks. I don't know what the hell it's going to be. That's next week's problem. I can't dwell on that. But that was really my declarative statement for this main topic situation, which is it doesn't look that appetizing to my uncultured, hairy-knuckled American ass. But I would love that. Like, man, dude, like if I just had like a bag of money, like a briefcase full of money, and you just go to Japan today, take that money over there, and just eat at all the fine places and sample all the different. Go like they have like the tasting menu things where it's like, you just want to taste all these different things so you know what you like and what you don't like. And so they bring out 40 courses or whatever over the course of like 6 hours or something like that. There's music and conversation, all that shit. Sign me up, man. I know that shit costs a brick. Probably $5,000-$10,000, right? Like, sign me up. Like, if I had the bag of money, sign me the hell up. So, that would be cool, right? To just try all this shit. So, I'm open to trying it. But in anime, it doesn't look that damn appetizing. So, that's not really the main question. I just want to put this out there and put my perspective out there and find out and have feedback on everything I just said. What are your personal experiences? Do you live in Japan? Do you live in Japan? Or you used to live in the United States, so you've tried both. What are the differences? What is the difference between what we see in anime and what's reality? All that. And if you know any of the history, like, it'd be really fascinating. If you could just point me to an article that talks about the history of how Japanese food came to America and how much it evolved and how long it's been here and all that stuff. Point me to an article or something like that. I would love to read that. But, anything that I've said so far, just, feedback on that would be really good because I'd really like that. And we can follow up on that next time. But the question on the table right now is, why is anime so obsessed with food? Not to get into the hot take rant or anything, but being hungry is not a goddamn character trait. And they do it so much, and I don't understand that. It's got to be a cultural thing. And I think the two things are tied together. I think the fact they keep trying to make being hungry a character trait, and we see food in so much of anime, where, comparatively speaking, how much food did I ever see in 15 seasons of Stargate Atlantis and Stargate SG-1? Probably 5%, maybe 8% of the screen time. It would come up occasionally. Sometimes it'd even be plot relevant. There's a thing I don't have time to get into now where one actor had to be told to stop eating on set because he would introduce food into a scene that didn't have food. So he'd be eating during a scene where the script didn't say he's supposed to be eating. So you had to be ordered to stop doing that. So that's like, it's a part of it. And there was even one time when the guy was having a repeating day, he would go back to having breakfast and he was having cereal, right? And that became a thing where he's just so sick of the cereal. He's like, I want some scrambled eggs today, man. Because I've been eating cereal for 1,000 days because he keeps repeating the same day, right? And he keeps waking up right as he's trying to eat the cereal. So, every now and then, compare that to anime, and I swear to God, man, like from all the anime I've ever watched, spread it all out, total amount of screen time, and then you'd say the total amount of screen time these characters have spent eating, cooking, talking about eating, talking about cooking, it's got to be 30%. Am I crazy? Like, it's got to be 30%. Like, that is a huge chunk of screen time that's been devoted to food. And I think there's a connection. I can't quite put my finger on this. This is going to be another one of these topics where I talk this time, listen to feedback, and we revisit this topic next time. Because I'm going to be doing the cooking next time, but I don't know how much screen time that'll take and how long that would make the podcast. So I'm going to return to this topic in 2 weeks when I've heard some feedback and had time to dwell on it. Because I don't know. Like, I feel like there is a connection. There's something here. It's almost like I'm trying to crack the code, right? Like, there's something about Japanese culture. I don't know if they think it's funny to be hungry. I don't know if they think it's funny to eat. Like, they have them eat, like, really fast, and it's just, we talk about eating like an anime character, so that's always hilarious. It is fun. That is funny. So I think they find that part funny. But I don't know what they're trying to say with that, because, like, going back to live action American TV, the only time anybody's ever been hungry is when that was a plot relevant, plot crucial moment. Like, Bruce Wayne was hungry in the Christopher Nolan movies because he went homeless and he wanted to find out what it was like to actually be hungry and have to steal to eat, right? That changed his perspective and changed the way he looked at crime. So, that's interesting, right? It just isn't something that is just thrown in there. And America's the fattest country in the world. We be eating, man. We got more buffets than some entire ass countries have total number and genre of restaurants. Just the buffets. If we just counted the buffets, man. KFC buffet, Old Country buffet, Golden Corral, There's breakfast buffets, like just our buffets where you just get there and you just eat everything, just pig the hell out, right? You just pig out. We're a fat ass country, and yet we don't spend much entertainment screen time talking about it or doing it, unless, like I said, it's a plot point. There's a fat character, and it's about him being fat. Shallow Hal or whatever. That movie where his girlfriend was really fat, but he saw her skinny or whatever that was. But unless it's about that, it's eating just doesn't really come up that much. In anime, it's there, and it can be nothing about it. There's nothing in Demon Slayer that requires you to ever have a scene with somebody eating, and they do it there, right? And in Gintama, dude, that dude must think food is the funniest thing he's ever seen. Because I swear to God, a third of his plots involve food in some kind of way or another. Strawberry milk and sweets and, dumplings and all that shit. So I wonder if that Gintama is the key to unlocking this code, which is they think eating is funny, and they think food is funny, and they're kind of obsessed with food. And by the way, the just sheer number of dishes they seem to have and kinds of food that they seem to have, considering how small the country is, tells me this is a country that's obsessed with food. They're constantly revising and finessing and doing new shit with food, right? And then they got the vending machine culture. You can get an entire Thanksgiving meal out of a vending machine and shit. Just, I don't know for sure. But the Japan snack game in real life is better than any country snack game. Any country. And we got what's the chocolate capital? What is it? I know it's one of those German countries. I don't think it's Germany. It could be Austria. But their chocolate game is unbelievable. The just actual authentic ass German chocolate, blow your socks off. I've had some. But the just range, the depth of field, the bench that they can draw from. Nobody has a deeper bench when it comes to snacks than Japan. And I've never even been there, and I can tell you that, man. Their snack game, they be coming out with 1,000 new flavors a year, and 900 of them fail. But they're constantly doing it. They don't miss us. They say you miss 100% of shots you don't take, right? They'll never miss a shot for not taking it. They're going to try everything. Barbecued ice cream, gravy flavored biscuits, syrup on ham. They're going to shoot everything, man. The number of flavors they got on chips, unbelievable, man. Let's go to the videotape here real quick. Okay. I put in weird Japanese chip flavors. Calbee pizza potato. Who the hell is going to mix pizza and potato? Well, I guess a potato's a chip. Okay. I was going to say. That'd be like putting chunks of baked potato on a pizza. Ain't nobody doing that shit, man. Okay, well, I guess it's just pizza and potato chips. That's pretty standard. Calbee must be a brand because there's a lot of those on here. Seaweed, I've watched enough anime to think that that's not super weird. Honey butter potato chips. See, like that, honey butter, I can see that. What the hell is Jagrika? I guess it's little tiny cups of sticks. I'm not gonna. Whatever the hell that is. I think they're like potato sticks instead of potato chips. But they have different flavors apparently. Soy sauce and mayo flavored potato chips. Soy sauce and mayo. That sounds obscene. Dark chocolate potato chips. Ugh. I guess that's the salty and the sweet together, right? The wasabi beef makes sense. Wasabi potato chips, I've actually had some. They're pretty good. I don't know, man. Looking at snacks. Fettuccine gum? What the hell is that? Oh, they're gummies. Okay. Soda flavored gummies. I guess that's not too extraordinary. There's something called UFO. They're beefed up barbecue chips. Okay. I don't know. It's getting complicated and time consuming here. But it looked like one of these things was like a squeeze tube. You squeeze it out and you get like a peach flavor. My point is, The Japanese snack game is unrivaled in this world. Like, as far as I know. Like, I may not know the hell I'm talking about. We've already established that. But, like, my perception is their snack game's on point, man. Like, people, they want something to put in their mouth hole between lunch and dinner, between breakfast and lunch. They're out there grinding. They're working hard at school. They're working hard at their job. They want to go sit in the park for a couple minutes, and they get like a half-hour break or something. Not a meal break, but just like a little tiny half-hour break. They want to sit in the park on a bench and eat something snacky. And they've got 1,000 options, and they're all exciting, right? So, like, man, their snack game is just unrivaled, man. Love to try some of that shit, but then a lot of it sounds horrible, too, right? So there is some kind of cultural obsession with food, but how does that tie into the characters being hungry as a character trait? Like, it's so high profile. It's in so many. It's second below I will never forgive you. The most common thing in anime is I will never forgive you. The second most common thing in anime is characters are hungry and they want to eat all. Like, everything's about eating. And then you tie into that just the whole snack thing, and just all the different kinds of snacks they can have, and just sometimes cooking can be a major subplot. Like, if a woman cooks for a man, that means she loves him, and something is like what she puts in the bento box determines how strongly she feels for it, whatever, right? Like, so there's something here, and I want to unlock this code. I want to crack the code. I want to figure this out. So I think we can do this together. I think we can somehow figure this out together. So that's my plan, right? So we're going to table this for now. I've given my thoughts. I'd love to hear your thoughts, and then I'm going to do some more time on this next podcast based on your input, and also because it's really like I'm searching like Japanese weird snacks and just come up with the magazines do lists and shit, right? Tell me the weirdest snack you've ever heard of from Japan. And so I could do a deep dive on the actual effing snack than some brief one paragraph list and, one picture, right? So, I'm going to try to see if I can find some weird ass snacks as well. So we'll table this for now, and we'll return to it in 2 weeks. Looking ahead, other animation. Okay, now, this is where I was going to do this as a separate podcast, but I don't think I got enough comments to really do this as a separate podcast. So I'm just going to do this here. Yeah, I only got 4 comments. I was calling for, and I also haven't watched all the way up to episode 60 yet. I think I've seen up to 54. But let's go ahead and do this. I'm going to address these questions and talk about the DC animated universe for a couple minutes. And, you can skip it if you want to, if you're not into that thing. This is kind of a niche thing. But this counts as other animation. So let's go ahead and get into it. Actually, it's just 3 comments. One of these I replied to. So, yeah, this not enough here for a separate podcast. Now, here's what I said. I have 3 questions for you. Number 1, who is your favorite hero not named Superman, Batman, or Wonder Woman? Okay, for me, it's Hawkgirl. And I've only been exposed to Hawkgirl during these animated movies I've watched and the animated TV series. I've seen all 5 seasons of Justice League. I've seen 54 episodes of Batman, the Animated Adventures, or whatever. For me, it's Hawkgirl, hands down. She's awesome. She's weird. I like that her eyes are weird. Like, when she's wearing a helmet, it looks like she's a bird, but if she's not wearing a helmet, she has normal eyes. How the hell does that work? I don't know. It's an animated thing. And then, in the Superman movie, played by one of my favorite actresses I'd only seen in one other thing. She apparently played Dora the Explorer back in the day, and she's been in a lot of shit. Isabel Merced or something. But I saw her most recently in Last of Us Season 2. Then I saw her in Superman. She's playing Hawkgirl. So, like, an actress I like, who is very talented, small role in Hawkgirl, and then she had like a brief cameo in, Peacemaker. Intriguing, hardcore. She doesn't mind killing people. She definitely murked that dude. So that was on purpose. I saw some people on Reddit talking about, she didn't really intend to kill him. Yeah, she's trying to kill that dude. Straight up, cold-blooded murder. And I wouldn't have it any other way. So that's what's going on there, right? Yeah, so Hawkgirl's my favorite. Who is your favorite villain not named Lex Luthor, the Joker, or General Zod? This is a little tougher. I'm going to have to say the Riddler, But I haven't seen many incarnations of him that I liked. He was terrible in the Tim Burton movies, whichever one that where Jim Carrey played him. He was terrible there. I watched the Adam West TV series. I don't remember it very much. He was fine there. That's probably why I liked him. I think the actor was really good, and I liked his costume. And riddle me this Batman and all that stuff. I like riddles. I'm terrible at solving them, but I like them. Then we've seen him twice here. One was a really good episode, one was a mediocre episode. And apparently we're getting one more in this series. So that's disappointing. And the Robert Pattinson movie, he was terrible. He's basically just a Joker. It wasn't the Riddler. So that sucked. Also, I hate, and I keep seeing this, I think it was in the animated series as well. I hate the premise that the Riddler wants you to solve the riddle to arrive at a certain place at a certain time. I just hate that. Like, then you didn't solve the riddle. He wanted you to solve it. What I want is a Riddler to be like, I'm so awesome, I'm going to put a riddle that you can't solve. And if you could have solved it, you could have stopped me. But you can't solve it. Right? So, and then the Batman solves it. Right? So that's what I want. And we never get that. Batman shows up and he's like, oh, just on time. Just exactly what I expected. And of course, the whole Pattinson movie is all about him wanting you to solve everything. So it's just such a cop-out, man. So Batman didn't do shit. World's greatest detective. One of the smartest deductive people out there ever. Didn't do jack shit because you wanted him to win. To win the riddle anyway. Come on, man. That's bullshit. So that's annoying. And they constantly do it. And then, like I said, and I have empathy for the writers in this particular situation. It is really hard to make up a new riddle and have it be good and have it be hard to solve, but then have it be logical that they solve it. It's really hard, man. Like, you have to be a specific kind of brain. And I think I couldn't do it. I would have to outsource to somebody who's a genius at that shit, who'd be writing books of riddles and just inventing new shit all the time. Tell them the situation, tell him how difficult I want it to be, and tell him and have him tell me how somebody can figure this out in a logical way, not some kind of plot convenient way. And then just work with this person. Okay, what little pieces of situations and information should I seed into the plot that Batman can see and perceive and be like, okay, wait a minute, because I saw these things, that means this, and that's the solution to the right. Like, I would have to work with some kind of riddle expert. Like, it's not easy. That's why they don't do it. That's why the riddles are lame, man, because it's not easy. And they're not trying to pay somebody to help them, right? I have all the empathy in the world for that situation. Do better. You got Hollywood money, man. Have somebody pay somebody. Say, I need this thing for my job. Do the Riddler right, man. That's all I'm asking for, and I rarely have seen him. One time, the first episode he was in, they had a great riddle. It was brilliant. Maybe not brilliant. It was really good. And it made sense that Batman could solve it. Second one, second appearance was trash. So, but yeah, I like the Riddler. Who is more interesting, Batman or his villains, and why? Now, this is more of a thing just to ignite some conversation. But it's interesting that it's an open debate, and I do think it's open to debate. A lot of people think Batman is the least interesting part of his stories, that the villains are more interesting, especially in the movies. They always make the villains colorful, eccentric, which they are. I mean, they're written that way. But they also give the villains an inordinate amount of screen time compared to Batman. Like, I think a Batman movie, and I think the Batman with Robert Pattinson was this way. We didn't see much of the villain, right? We weren't spending a lot of time with him. So I think they got it right. We should be spending our time with the Batman. He's the character. He's interesting. He's two people. The Bruce Wayne is a mask. You could do entire TV series and movies just on that premise alone, that Bruce Wayne is a mask and that he is actually Batman. Like, there's so much to mine there, and they just make him some vanilla-ass, boring-ass, he's more interesting when he's playing Bruce Wayne drunk with the women in the pond at the restaurant, so he buys a whole hotel so that he can stay in the pond with his girls. Like a rich douchebag that he is. And that's the extent of it, And then, the Joker's getting all this goddamn screen time. So, I think Batman is more interesting than his villains, but I think Hollywood doesn't believe that, and so they go the other way with it. And I think that's a fatal flaw of a lot of these Batman movies. It was definitely a problem in the Burton movies. And it's definitely a problem in the Nolan trilogy. I think whatever the name of this guy is, Matt Smith or whatever, who's doing the new versions with Pattinson, I think he's got it right. And I can't speak to the Ben Affleck, the Batfleck, because I never saw any of those movies. So I don't know how well that was done. I doubt it was done very well. But I don't know. And I don't think the Riddler showed up in any of those. So he never got a solo movie, so I don't think any of his villains showed up. Yeah, I think it was like Batman going against Lex Luthor or some shit. I don't know for sure, but that's what I think it was. So, moving on, and actually I realized there's just two comments really, because one of the people, Christmas, we're getting about the time of year where this is a perfect name. Christmas Pterodactyl. I love that name. That's so good. Was just asking, first of all, was this just about DC characters? I said yes. So we just had two comments. So let me just read these real quick. Christmas Pterodactyl. Favorite DC hero is Zatanna. I can see that. I thought she was an anti-hero. I'm not going to, nitpick here. But I thought she was an anti-hero. But I don't really know her that well. Like, I've seen her in one episode of this. I saw her in Smallville. And I think she showed up in Supergirl, but I don't remember Supergirl very well, and I never finished the series. So, and I don't think she's been in the movies I remember. So I haven't seen enough of her. But my impression before I started watching all this shit is I thought, I of course was aware of the name Zatanna. I knew she was a magician, and I'd seen, like, animated, her standing there with a bunch of other people. And Zatanna, and they'd have their names underneath or whatever. She always seemed like a villain to me. I don't know if it was the color scheme of her outfit, which I think is black and white. I don't know if it was her mischievous look, but she always seemed like a villain to me. So that could be just polluting my mind. She could be just a straight up hero and has always been a hero, never been a villain, or never been an anti hero. But that perception could be coloring what I'm thinking. So I don't know. Favorite DC villain, Sinestro. I don't know jack shit. I know very little about the Green Lantern. I don't know anything about this yellow bitch. So, like, nothing. He's been in a couple of movies, but I don't know, like, what is his philosophy? What's his backstory? Was he a Green Lantern who just went evil? And why did his color change? Or if he got his power from something else? I don't know shit. So, I'll take your word for this one. Batman is more interesting than his villains. Most of them wouldn't work as well in the lead of an ongoing series the way you can. Well, I'm going to be starting the Penguin series soon. And I'm going to be interested to see if that's any good. But I know he was in the Batman movie, but I don't remember shit. I'm going to have to go back and watch it. I remember nothing about that movie other than I was annoyed at the ending, and I thought Pattinson actually pulled off the character. I don't like Pattinson as an actor or a person. Just, I don't like anything about him. So the fact that he did a good job is kind of annoying. But he did. He did a good job. I mean, somebody I don't like does a good job, I'm going to admit they did a good job. That's just what it is. So, but yeah, I don't remember much of the movie, so I'm going to have to go back and watch the Penguin portions at least. And then I'm going to go into the series. I don't know if the series is a prequel to the movie or it comes after the movie or what's going on. So that'll be interesting to see all that. Then we've got Ruji. Number one, favorite DC hero is The Question. Vic Sage, yes, that's right. I actually saw you write this down. I did a cursory glance at the replies, right? And when I did that a week ago, I didn't know who the hell you were talking about. I was like, The Question, what the hell? Who the hell? What the F? Like, at all. Like, it didn't ring a bell at all. I'm talking somewhere else about, like, my shitty memory. I think it was one of the One Piece rewinds. No, it was JoJo, actually. The episode 1 of season 5. I talk about how shitty my memory is. It's really bad. This is another example. A week ago, when I saw this, I didn't know what you were talking about. It suddenly clicked for me. He was in Justice League. Yeah, he's got the question mark face. I love that dude. I love that character, man. I would definitely watch a series of just him. He was fascinating. He was really cool. I liked him a lot. He really striked me as an interesting character when he showed up in Justice League cartoon. Exactly, me too. 100%. Basically a Batman without the money or training, but a greater thirst for the truth than anyone else. 100%. I agree 100%. I wish I could change my answer. Because that would be it right there. Yeah, well, I still like Hawk Girl a lot, but like, yeah, Hawk Girl and the Question together. I think he hooked up with the Huntress or something, didn't he? In the series, somebody hot who was dangerous. I'm into that. As long as she's hot and dangerous, she's acceptable for him. Yeah, I loved his voice. I loved his look. I loved everything about him, his backstory, and what he was trying to do. And that he's a conspiracy nut, that he's sometimes right. Fantastic character. Just I want more from him. I do think it's interesting that your hero and villain have very similar names: Vic Sage and Vandal Savage. Coincidence, right? But that's what the word means. Vandal Savage. The immortal Neanderthal gone tyrant who then inexplicably to pacifist, at least in the Justice League animated series, in that one episode where Superman gets sent to the future. Yeah. My exposure to him was first from Legends of Tomorrow. I liked him there. He was an interesting character. I liked he was immortal. I liked he had this constant beef with these other two, the Hawkman, Hawkgirl thing. So that was cool. He was more interesting there, I think, than he was in the Justice League cartoon. He just didn't click with me for that. But as a concept character, just as a character who could be interpreted in various ways and by various people in various medium, he's a really good template. I'd like to see him in like a live action movie as a protagonist or antagonist. It'd be interesting if he got a solo movie first and then became one of the enemies of. I'd love to see them do that. Get a solo movie, and it's just about their shit, getting their house in order, developing their empire, and then in the next hero movie have them show up as a villain. I don't think they've ever done that, but I think that'd be really cool. And then 3, like the other commentator said as well, Batman definitely is more interesting than most of the villains. Yeah, and I think that, like I said, it's just a conversation starter. But it's interesting to me. We all agree Batman is more interesting, and Hollywood thinks it's the other way around. Hollywood thinks his enemies, his villains, are more interesting, and that is a common theme. And I think it's to their detriment. I think they're wrong. That's one of the reasons I wanted to bring the question up. But yeah, so that is just a little side quest thing we did. For wanted to do it somewhere. I was going to do it as a separate podcast, but here we are. It didn't. It really take that long. Okay, moving on. Hot take. Will you, for the love of God, stop trying to fuck your siblings? What the hell is that, man? Why? Why are we trying to smash you Targaryen nasty hoes, man? Y'all some hoes. Like, this has come up in anime. I cannot tell you how many times. And I don't want to hear this shit. We are not blood relation. It's always we're not blood relation. It's always, we just got crammed together in the same house. We were 5. We're not really related. There was a, I can't remember what the show was. But they started off with, hot brother, sister, and they find out later that they're not actually blood related. Oh, thank God, now we can smash. Then we've got the, not his Dark Materials. What is that one with, the Mortal Instruments? I think it's, the Mortal Instruments, not the Dark Materials, whatever, man. But it's the one with, the redheaded moron. They did a TV series, they've done a movie. Now they're doing another series or something. I think even that failed, I'm not sure. But, Shadow Hunters? Yeah, it was called Shadow Hunters as a series. It's something Mortal Instruments or something as a series of books. And she had this incest plot line for a book and a half before she revealed they weren't related to each other. You nasty ass. Like, just, if it's even up for debate, we can't go there, man. Like, this fine line they're trying to not cross. Okay, well, as long as we don't have any drops of blood, we're in there. No, you're bad. Bad siblings. You're bad and you should feel bad. You nasty hoe. And I'm using, like, you know me, I'm gender fluid when it comes to my language, right? Bitch can apply to anybody. Hoe can apply to anybody. Nasty hoe can apply to anybody. Male, female, trans, whatever the hell, non-binary, whatever the hell you are, if you're trying to smash a sibling, you're a nasty hoe. I don't give a shit. We ain't doing the pronouns here. Like, you're a nasty hoe no matter what you are. Whatever your pronoun is. This shit is gross, man. I don't understand. What the hell is I watching? Oh, it was Garden of Sinners. Boy, they be sending on that show. I need to do the next movie. I'm doing it in a day or two. But Boy, they'd be sending to that show. Like, I was thunderstruck, man. I thought, like, I was thinking that she was trying to, like, I didn't know lesbian, straight, whatever, bisexual, whatever the hell she was. It so didn't enter my mind that she's trying to smash her brother that I thought she was talking about her teacher. Her 3 times her age ass, probably longer, because that bitch, like, she's a witch, right? God knows how old she is. She's old as hell. Like, I think she was getting taught witchcraft in the 1800s or some shit. This is out there as a short. I was trying to articulate and comprehend the fact that she was jealous of Shiki because she wanted to smash her ancient ass teacher. So the bitch is old. She's a woman, and I didn't know what the orientation of the student was, but it was same gender, and she's like 100 years old, 150 years older than her. And I was still like, okay, well, that must be what it is. Because there's no way in hell she's trying to have sex with her brother right there. That ain't happening. That's off the table. So we got to take that off the table. There's 3 people. There's her and 3 people. There's a woman she hates, Shika. She's jealous of her because, Shika is interested in the person she's interested in, right? So it can't be Shika. There's her old ass, witchcraft ass, teacher. And then there's her effing brother. So Shika's off the table because she hates her. So you don't hate the person you love, right? And you wouldn't be jealous of the person you want to smash. So she's off the table. He's her brother, and there's no way in hell your nasty ass is that effing nasty that you're trying to do that. So it has to be this teacher, which don't make any damn sense. Like, she's ancient. And I've always seen just a professional relationship there. And she's old, and she's a witch. And I had gotten no sense that this chick was lesbian. So, like, nothing was adding up. It didn't make any sense. There must be a mysterious 4th person here. No, come to find out, she's just trying to smash her effing brother. Why? Why do we keep doing this? The hell is wrong with you, Japan? Look, I'm already kind of just moving past all this underage shit that you be doing all the time, man. Like, Japan. Like, this obsession with sexualizing underage girls. I'm kind of just looking the other way because I love Japanese culture. I love Japanese food, the 5% of it I know. I love Japanese anime. I'm assuming this is a sense of humor. I'm assuming you just think this shit's funny, which, it can be. Great Teacher Asinka had one of the best gags I've ever seen when it came to sexualizing an underage girl. He thought she was an adult. He had put on his furry outfit. He had the candles out. He was about to turn on some Barry White. He had the blanket and the pillows and shit. She mentioned she's like 16, and he cleaned that shit up so fast, man. I was on the floor for 10 minutes. I couldn't breathe, man. I was laughing my ass off. That was some funny shit. So it can be funny. He found that. He's like, oh, hell no. She turned around. He was just sitting there fully clothed and everything, right? Man, he better be. So I'm already looking the other way when it comes to that crap. Like, I'm assuming you're just trying to be funny, and that's all there is. And I look the other way with all this groping women's asses on trains and subways and shit. You don't go there too often in the anime. Apparently, it's like a really big problem in real life. What the hell's wrong? So I kind of look the other way on that. How many things I got to look the other way on, man? Like, what is it, right? Like, it's just, and it's always the siblings, which I'm not saying I want, parental child shit or, but they don't really do the cousin. They don't think the cousin thing's hot. And they're not doing the aunt or uncle, nephew, niece, everybody of appropriate age, obviously. But, like for instance, a good example of that is Jon Snow and Daenerys Targaryen, right? She's his aunt. But they're both grown. They're grown asses. So we're okay there. But she's his damn aunt, man. So, but it seems very specifically keyed in on siblings, and we're always putting that shit out there. Oh, they're not blood. We don't have a drop of blood between us, so it's all good. You know the one effing thing it's not? All good. The hell are we doing, man? What is the? I want to unlock this cultural code. Like, is this hilarious? Like, and I'm trying to think. Like, there's been other examples too. Like, this is not the only time I've seen this. This is just the most recent example. And I know that there is entire ass anime devoted to this shit. Y'all nasty, man. Like, and I wonder if this is some only child shit. Like, if you're an only child, I don't think you just can't understand the dynamics between siblings. Most of the time, we all remember the Folgers incest commercial, right? So you talk about you're the present I want to unwrap this Christmas. Apparently, by the way, the actress that was in that commercial is the daughter of a famous actor, Jeremy Combs or something. And she's actually carved out a pretty decent career. It's been 15 years since that commercial came out. She was 20 at the time. She's 35 now. I looked her up. And she's got a decent little career, man. A bunch of guest appearances on TV shows and shit. Plays and all that stuff. I mean, her father's a famous actor, right? So that works. But it's just hilarious. This would be the one. She's a Nepo baby. And as a father, we've at least heard of. And the only thing she's ever been known for is, you're my present. Jesus Christ. I stayed up all night waiting for you. Like, rather than like, oh, you're home, butthead. Huh? Or, as mentioned, like, this dude flew back from Africa, and his parents were asleep in bed. They didn't pick him up at the airport. What the hell's wrong with him? He has to show up? Like, he apparently took a cab? He came from Africa, man, to be home for Christmas. The parents are asleep in bed when he shows up at the house. The hell's that? That's weird. Anyway, so we have our own problems here in America, but that was unintentional. This is an entire ass genre, man. Like, there's some cultural deep dive shit we should be doing into the psyche of the Japanese. I think Americans broke something when they nuked them, I don't know, man. I don't understand. Like, and again, I think, like, with the food, I think this is something that's probably just hilarious to Japanese people. They just think it's hilarious. And we're just, the comedy just doesn't translate. And that's one of the biggest things I learned when I was filmmaking was it is not profitable to do comedies if you want to get world revenues. You're not going to be able to send your American comedy unless you have some big ass name actors. Then it'll sell. But an indie person like me, if I do a horror movie, that will sell all over the entire world. What's scary? Now, it can change. The woods are scary to British people. Urban settings, like cities, are scary to American people. And like water and ghosts are scary to Japanese. So like there's differences in what scares specific cultures. But basically, horror translates across the world. Horror will translate. Comedy doesn't really translate that well. Like, what people think are funny is so culturally, significant to that culture, right? So, the Germans I know like slapstick, but decoding what Japanese people find funny, what they don't, I could never make a movie that I think would be a comedy that they would laugh at over there. So, I don't know if this is another case where it's just hilarious. Like, the very idea, she's in love with her brother, that's a barrel of laughs, man. I don't know if it's that, or if it's just they're repressed, and so you go to the forbidden when you're oppressed, like sexually oppressed. I don't know how sexually liberated the Japanese are. Probably not very. I don't know if that's it, but I want it to stop. Just that caught me so far off guard in that episode. Like, I was thunderstruck. Like, I wasn't doing a bit for that short. Or during the actual reaction. Like, I was actually thunderstruck. Like, I had to stop the video, go back and say, what the hell did this bitch just say? There's no way she just said that. I had to stop and go back, man. I couldn't believe it. Like, that was one of the bigger shocks I've had watching shit. I was not expecting none of that, man. So, yeah. Y'all some nasty hoes is what I'm saying. Alright, well, that just leaves us with the anime watching ranks. And very similar to last week, except I've started back with My Hero Academia Season 8. So I put that on the list. It feels like I'm missing something here. And I keep looking at it, and I don't think there's anything else I'm doing. Maybe it's something I'm going to be start doing soon. I don't know. But, like, I'm not, for instance, I did that dark villainous heiress Snow White thing, whatever the hell that is. I've only seen one episode, so I can't put that on the list. Anyway, at the bottom is One Piece. Wearing me out. And I've made a decision, when they go on hiatus in January, I'm taking next year off. I'm not going to be watching any One Piece next year. So it's only going to be on this list for a few more weeks. And then we're out this bitch. Because I can't do it, man. Another 3-month hiatus, kiss my ass. Just, I need to get something in my regular rotation I can watch regularly. So maybe it'll be Bleach. I'm not sure. We'll see. Boruto's next. I'm really enjoying it. It's just the shit that I'm watching right now has been really, really good, man. Like, this is a really top-heavy list. So Boruto, I'm enjoying it, and it can't crack the top 6, man, because this other shit's been so good. Like, for instance, JoJo's the next one. Finished season 4. It's my favorite season. Going into season 5, so far, I've only seen 2 episodes of season 5. So far, I'm not super into it. I'm going to give it, 5-10 episodes, and I'm sure I will be. But for now, I don't know, man. I don't know that I'm feeling it. I can't get past the fact that this dude's hair looks like a bag of penises. It just does, man. The hair is getting tedious on this show. And I know it must be a signature. Everybody's got to have ridiculous ass hair. But I really preferred Jotora, where he just had a signature hat. I prefer the signature hat to the stupid, like in season 4, his hair looks like a steak. It looks like you grilled a steak and slapped on top of your head. It's just thick and flat, and you've got the grill marks on it, and I don't know what the hell you're doing with any of that. That was stupid. This is way worse. This looks like a bag of dicks. Like, it's just, I'm not feeling it. So, right now, that's where that is. You know what? I'm putting Boruto in front of that. Like, it's just, Boruto's at least doesn't have the ridiculous ass hair. Boruto's ahead of JoJo. So forget what I said a minute ago. Demon Slayer's next. It's really good. We talked about it earlier, so I'm not going to, wear you out with any more of that right now, but I'm enjoying it a lot. Garden of Sinners is next. You nasty hoe. It's so funny to me, too, because it was such an adventure. Because I had watched the first 5 chapters. And then, I think it was the first 5 chapters. And she had been in like 3 scenes in these 5 chapters. And then through various misadventures, it'd been like 3 weeks since I've been able to watch anything. And so I went back and watched all of it again, right? And I noticed her in it, and I realized that it wasn't until my rewatch. The first time I watched it, I didn't realize he even had a sister. It wasn't until my rewatch I realized he had a sister, and that she hated Sheikah, but we didn't know why. And then I realized, while watching it, she was also the apprentice of the mentor, the witch I was talking about, right? So she has 2 roles in the show. She's the apprentice, magical apprentice of a witch, and is also the brother of one of the 3 protagonists. So she had 2 connections, plus she hated the 3rd protagonist. So she was kind of tangentially related to all 3 people I'd been watching this whole time. And in my first watch through of the first 5 episodes, hadn't really noticed her at all. There's only one scene where she stood out because there was a long scene in a restaurant where she's with the villain and she's cussing out Sheikah. And she just seemed like some random girl. So now she got her own. Episode 6 was her episode where we did a deep dive on her twisted, nasty ass psyche, right? So, that now but it's so perfect that I rewatched the series, realized that not only was she a sister, she's also the magical apprentice, and then after I'd done that, it's her episode. So I would have been way more lost and confused if I'd gone into her episode without refreshing myself and the rest of it. Sometimes I'd rather be lucky than good. The timing was perfect. So I was definitely more lucky than good. That's for damn sure. So, but that worked out perfectly. And probably tomorrow, once I get this podcast out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and do the Garden of Sinners movie, which is 7. And then 8's the epilogue, and that's it, right? But it's really good. I'm enjoying it a lot. Now, My Hero Academia is up on, it's number 3. And they have 6 episodes out in Japanese. I'm watching in English, so I've only been able to watch 4 episodes. I'm expecting episode 5 to come out any day in English. So I'm watching them as I go, editing them. I've already recorded reactions to the 4 episodes, edited them, exported them, and loaded them up to the website. But these are sponsored by Ariel, so I'm not going to put them on early access or schedule them until I know when she's going to want me to do these. Right? She wants me to. She doesn't want to see them until the whole season's out. Right? And so I imagine I'm going to be doing these kind of in limbo. It's kind of a weird way to do this, but I've had a little bit of time, and I wanted to go ahead and knock this out. And so at some point, because she's having me do the Apothecary Diaries right now, right? I'm assuming maybe in between seasons or after the Apothecary Diaries are over, whenever she'll ask for these, and they will all already be finished. And then I'll be able to just dump them all in early access right as she asks for them, schedule them where she, because they come out, 2 a week. And that will, I think it's 11 episodes, so that'll be 6 weeks of videos that will already be done, just waiting to be scheduled. So at some point, I'm going to have a 6 week break where I can just do whatever the hell I want, and because my work will already be done. So I like that. This will allow me to get ahead at some point. But, so I've reacted to them, and they're waiting up there, but, I'm waiting on word on when I'm supposed to do them. But since I've watched 4 of them, we can talk about it. It's the last season. Each season before this was 20 to 21, 23 episodes, something like that. And then this season is basically just the end. The last 11 episodes, and we're already 4 into it. So, and one of the big bads has already died, right? I think there were like 3 big bads. 2 of them have been taken care of, and now we're down to just 1, which is interesting because he's the one we started with. And I never would have guessed that. I mean, I should have. It's so interesting to me that this series has followed all the standard, obvious tropes, but has done it in such a way that I've been fooled every time. And I overthink everything every time. And then, at the end of the day, they did the obvious shit, and I never saw it coming, right? Because he's the first villain we ever meet, and he's going to be the last villain. And that's the way you tell a story. But All for One became such a huge presence over the course of the series. He overwhelmed the thought of anybody else being a bad guy. He's such a great shit talker. He's so overwhelming in presence, like I said. But he wasn't the first villain. He didn't show up until season 2 or 3. Like, he may have been referenced. But he didn't show up as an actual character who impacted the plot until at least season 3. I can't remember exactly. It was whenever he escaped. So he had no effect on the plot for like the first half of the series. And now he's been vanquished as of episode 4. So, spoiler alert, I guess. I assume people are keeping up to date. I'll put a text mark, skip it if you haven't seen it. So, anyway, it's kind of interesting, though, in that, the way they paced out these first 4 episodes. Midoriya is our hero, and he has been on screen for maybe 2 minutes in 4 episodes. 4 episodes. He's basically playing a guy to a stalemate, and everything else is happening around him. But it's such an interesting... the show has such a confidence in their storytelling and in the other characters, which has always been kind of an ensemble show, but he is the hero. He's the voice, he's the narrator, he's the one that everything else revolves around. It is so interesting to me that he's gotten so little screen time, and we've only got 7 episodes left of the entire series, and I expect the last 2 episodes to just be the falling action, and just be like, okay, here's what happens, everybody. Maybe a flash forward of a couple years or something, but they're probably going to do that for a couple episodes. We're down to just the final boss, and I think that's it. I think that's so. Maybe it'll be 4 episodes. Probably not 4. 3 episodes of falling action. They got a lot to do here, right? A lot of plot lines to wrap up. A lot of just housekeeping, essentially, character housekeeping, because they have so many goddamn characters. There's probably 25 characters at least some of us give a shit about. Now, any one of us doesn't give a shit about all 25. But the collective us, somebody among all of us gives a shit about one of these 25, each of these 25. So, for instance, I don't give a shit about Frog Girl. I don't give a shit about Penis Head. I don't give a shit about the other guys that punch and shit. I barely remember anything about him. I don't give a shit what happens to him. But there are people here who do. There's a girl who has to be naked so she can produce things out of her body. Objects come out of her skin, so let's make sure she shows plenty of skin. As a teenager, and by the way, Japan. And she's okay. I like her, but like I don't give a shit what happens to her. There's somebody that's her favorite. That's their favorite character. Is her, right? Invisible Girl is high on my list, and it's weird because she doesn't do jack shit. She finally did something after 8 effing seasons. Finally did something. She ain't busted a grape. She ain't done jack shit. Nothing. 8 seasons finally did something. But I've always liked her because she's hilarious. Just a pair of gloves floating in the middle of the classroom just cracks me up every time I see it. Just really makes me laugh. And she's a cheerleader, and all you're seeing is boots and gloves moving. The visual gags with her being invisible just has always made me laugh for 8 seasons. So yeah, she's one of my favorite characters. So I care about her, but there's that case multiplied by 25. There's 25 characters that we give a shit about. You know, and it's not all of them the students. I know there's 25 students, so it may seem like I'm talking about just the students, but for me, probably 15 students and then some of the adults I care about, right? So, well, fortunately, we haven't seen Rat Boy Principal this season, so that's good. Among the whole cast, there's 20 to 25 people that somebody has any one of those 25 people as their favorite character. So you got to wrap all that up. You got to do something. I want to know what happens with Birdhead. Where does he go? What does he do? How successful is he? You know, or is he? And you don't have to do that as a flash forward. You can just do that as he's in the hospital and he says, "You know what? I think I'm just going to retire to a farm. I'm not going to do hero work." And that tells you what happens to him. He just makes a declaration. You can do it that way, right? So I don't know if they'll have time for like a flash forward or anything, but they might. But they only have 7 episodes left, and it feels like our main character Midoriya hasn't done anything. And going back to last season, I watched the last episode of last season. He didn't do jack shit either. You know, in a long time. It's been a long time since he's done anything, and so for them to start this season with 4 straight episodes of him not really being in it is bold. It's bold. It's barbecue sauce bold. So I just like the bold storytelling. I think they're going to stick to landing, and that's rare for a long form story. This has been a long story. It's very rare for them to do that. But I think they're going to. I'm very optimistic, and so that's why it's so high on my list. Gintama, hilarious. I'm watching a bunch more tomorrow or the next day probably. I got to do Garden Centers first, and then I'm going to watch some more of this. Looking forward to that. And I've been watching Gintama and then JoJo and Gintama and JoJo, and it's like the two shows pair well nicely. Because both of them are funny, but one is funny, will give you some action, and then one is action, will give you some comedy. So those pair well nicely, right? Like those are two shows you can watch together and they don't clash at all. Like I can't imagine watching Demon Slayer and Gintama together. It would feel like Gintama's just constantly making fun of Demon Slayer. It would kind of take away from it. But I don't feel that way with JoJo because JoJo doesn't take themselves seriously either. They're in on the joke. They know that they're ridiculous. They know that they're just insane. And so they give you action with some comedy, and then Gintama's going to give you comedy with some action. They pair well very nicely. Those two shows work well together. And number one's still Apothecary Diaries, and maybe because I watched 7 episodes today, so there's that. And I just got a comment from Morgan where he said he'd watched all 3 videos of 6 of the episodes. He said, I just binged all 3 of these videos and I still want more. And I feel the same way. I want to see more Apothecary Diaries. I watched the next episode. I know that I have to watch these in 2s because I put out the videos 2 at a time, right? It's pointless to watch 1 episode. If we're going to watch it, it's either 2 or none, 4 or 2, 6 or 4. Like, it doesn't make sense to do an odd number. You know, you want to, you know, that way you can be fresh and kind of like, you know, reference what happened in the previous. If you're watching the second episode in the package of the video, you can reference what happened in the first video they just watched right before they watched the second one. If you watch the 2 episodes a week apart, you can't do that. So I don't typically do that. But I was so into it, I watched the next episode and then I ran out of time. So I'm going to have to watch another one soon just to make sure they pair well together. And I'm probably going to watch more than just one, right? They're like chips. You can't just stop at one. It's an addictive ass show. And that's the best compliment you can give to any kind of story. I want more now. If you watch a pilot of episode like Plurbius, like I watched last week, you watch a pilot episode, you watch a movie that's going to be the first part of a trilogy, anything like that, and your first reaction is, I want more now. No, I don't want to hear any of this. It's going to take us 3 years to do another season. Shit. I want more now. If that's your reaction, it's a really good show. this is a really good show. And I'm really glad I've got a whole nother ass season after this one because I'm blasting through this season. I'm already more than halfway through. Really glad I got another season coming up because this is an addictive ass show, and that's the best company you can give any show, like I said. So, all right, well, hopefully this podcast is addictive, with my clumsy segue. But that's a wrap for the podcast. I'm going to get started on figuring out what the hell I'm going to cook in 2 weeks. I need to really cook it next week and just, so I can take my time with it, figure out what the hell I'm doing. And I just need to figure out a good balance between affordable ingredients and something that's just not super lame. Like, I'm not doing fried rice. I was thinking about dumplings, but they require 17 ass ingredients and shit. So I'm going to have to balance that somehow. I'll figure it out. But it's going to take time. I need to actually spend time on it because I had 4 weeks. Now I'm down to 2. So, that the reason I pushed it in the first place, that was supposed to be the topic of this episode, which was, if any of the other 3 topics I won, I would have done that topic for this episode. But since cooking anime food won, I was like, there's no way I can pull that together in 2 weeks. But you know what I've done in the last 2 weeks to prepare for this? Nothing. Well, not nothing. I spent 1 hour researching food and ingredients. So I have spent 1 hour research, but I've gotten nowhere. So I'm in trouble. So I'm going to have to figure it out. If you have type of food suggestions that like have ingredients that are not really out of the ordinary, drop that in a comment. Sausage balls or whatever. It's like we got sausage, we got bread, we've got oil. That's just, I don't know if that's a thing or not. I'm just saying, if you can think of an anime, it has to have been depicted in anime though. So you'd have to tell me the anime it was in. We got to keep it attached to the subject matter here. If it's something I haven't seen, I can go watch that scene. And then I want to be able to. One of the things I want to do is compare what I've made to what they depict, and see if there's any similarity whatsoever. But if you have suggestions, let me know because that would be a big help. So far, I haven't gotten very far.